Hello everyone, welcome live to 3YTV tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series, the Simbox 250 here from the beautiful Talladega Super Speedway. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth as always here on Friday nights for the Simbox Truck Series on the channel is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, we saw a very, very interesting race last week at Michigan. We didn't really expect Michigan to go the way it did, but we saw a lot of caution flags, and ultimately a lot of cars get wrapped up in some possible championship implications accidents during that race. And here tonight at Talladega, we're going to be talking about the big one and which one of the championship drivers is it going to take out. This is that wild card race we've been talking about in the chase.
It absolutely is, Peter, and I think this is going to be the last really big hurdle that's going to completely shake up this championship. Not that other races in the future can't, but just that this is such an unknown, such a wild card, such a thing that you can do everything right and something happens out in front of you and all of a sudden this changes what the championship could look like. If guys like James Lorello, the 50 of Bill Edwards, the 49 of Mitchell Adams, if those guys, all three get involved in stuff, that's going to open the door up for some of those guys that are maybe 30 plus points back to all of a sudden have a new lease on life as far as this championship's concerned. So yeah, a potential for a huge shakeup here. And it'll be really interesting to see how these 250-ish miles plays out.
And there you see the point standings coming into tonight's race with James Lorello with only a 2-point lead. A lot of his lead was evaporated last week by Mitchell Adams, who walked away with that checkered flag. Only 2 points separate the reigning Simbox Truck Series champion in Mitchell Adams from the overall lead. Bill Edwards, third place in the points, only 6 points back, but then a big gap, Drew, to some of the drivers like you were mentioning, like TJ Buck, like Ben Adams, Doug Milliner, Jeff Price, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Colin O'Leary. Those drivers are going to need a good night, and they're going to need the front few to have a bad night here at Talladega. And that can happen here around this super speedway as Joshua Sobel going to get out there on the racetrack. Now, speaking of Chris Darling, they're in the middle. Currently scores 6th place, but Drew, he will not be in tonight's race. In fact, he won't be in the next few races because of a suspension after an in-race accident last week at Michigan, and definitely one of the storylines coming into tonight.
Yeah, we saw the contact coming down to the pits between he and that 9 truck, and a couple other hits and dings and whatnot into that 47, and I think he just had a little bit too much that night and decided that payback was warranted on James Lorello. Ultimately, I don't think cost Lorello too much. But yeah, I think that when an admin understands that they're going to be held to a little higher standard, probably. Chris absolutely is equal on track to these other guys, and admins in well-run leagues such as NSRA don't receive special treatment. But ultimately, when you are a guy who is making decisions behind the scenes, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard, and that's what Chris did, right? He had a league-mandated 1 suspension, and he is in fact taking 2 additional weeks off as kind of a self-imposed penalty. So that's pretty good character traits displayed there by Chris to show that, hey, I understand my mistakes and I get heated just like everybody else, but I also hold myself to that standard as well.
Yeah, that is for sure. Here we watch the number 30 machine, Josh Sobel. He's going to come around and complete his first lap. Already a couple of qualifying times on the board with Monty Glover currently top of the charts in the number 10 machine. We're going to also keep an eye on the number 77 machine of Doug Neal. He's not currently out there on the racetrack, but of course he was the driver who started off the season on the pole for the Simbox 250 back at Daytona. We got another Simbox 250 here tonight at Talladega. Can he repeat as a pole sitter on a super speedway? Let's see who else we got out there on the racetrack. Let's check in with the man who's currently top of the board right there, Monty Glover. He's going to come around to complete his second lap time right there. Dirty Gloves Landscaping number 10 machine to the stripe. And where will he place himself? Peter Serto currently second place. Is James Lorello, the number 9 machine, your current points leader, going to jump up to the top? There he is in the S2R machine. I know we got some S2R fans in the chat. I also know we got some fans of Peter Serto in the chat. We got Peter John Serto in the chat, as well as Kelsey Jalowski in the chat, rooting him on. Definitely going to have a lot of drivers being rooted on here in the chat here tonight. So we want to welcome each and every one of you to the channel here tonight for what is race number 3 of the Simbox Chase for the championship. I'm sure, Drew, all these drivers, you know, they've been watching and racing now for quite a few weeks. Tonight is race number 20 on the season, and you factor in a couple of special events. This is really the 22nd week on the calendar, if you will. So these drivers really getting towards the end of the season and looking forward to, you know, these last few races.
Yeah, and you know, the pressure only builds, right? As we count these weeks down, we get closer to the season finale. It's you know, having Talladega at this point in this championship run, it can undo all the good work that you've put in for the first few weeks. I don't think really anybody's been mistake-free necessarily, but as we mentioned, James Lorello had kind of an eventful race at Michigan last week, whereas Mitchell Adams was kind of able to recover from his mistakes earlier in the chase. So we haven't had that kind of, you know, old school Jimmy Johnson perfect run through the chase that I think a lot of these guys would have wished to kind of cut down on some of this drama and pressure here at Talladega. But I just wanted to go back a little bit too and look at the previous race at Talladega, which was the 6th race of the season back in October, early October, in fact. And kind of just as an example of what can happen here at Talladega, James Lorello finished 22nd in that race. You know, I mean, that's certainly no indicator on what his performance tonight could be. But if that happens, all of a sudden it brings other guys like, I mean, Mitchell Adams finished 5th, right? That would completely change the championship dynamics here tonight. So it'll be interesting how that pans out.
Yeah, that is for sure. TJ Buck off the racetrack right now, and really, we're now over in the gridding session. Let's see if we can figure out who's going to start tonight's race on the pole. Folks, I got a new computer this past week, so if we have any gremlins on the chat, let us know. This is the first time streaming with my brand new PC, so hopefully everything sounds good. We can get everything sorted out. If there is some issue, just let me know. I might be a little bit slow getting to it, but I promise I do watch the chat. But Drew, looks like the number 13 machine, Jordan Scheffler, will be the man picking up tonight's Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award with a fantastic lap. Let's see if we can bring up that grid right there with that 56.105, 6 thousandths of a second there, Drew, for him to take on the pole.
Yeah, and James Lorello will be starting to his outside. A great start for the night for kind of the guy who's probably performed on average the best thus far this year. His teammate, Bill Edwards, in that 50 truck will be starting in 3rd. Monty Glover will be to his outside in 4th position. Mitchell Adams, another one of those championship front runners. Man, I mean, really, I think the 3 guys that are in a great position for the championship, all of those guys starting in our top 5. Adams will roll off in 5th. Ben Izenga will roll off in 6th. Peter Serto in 7th. JT Poole in 8th. Colin Ullery in 9th. And TJ Buck, you know, kind of that 4th place guy that has an outside shot that this race can make the difference in him being able to compete. He will be rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, folks, still trying to get the sound levels just right. I do apologize for a little bit slow there going through the grid. But let's go through the next 10 drivers. Jason Gracias starting on the inside of row number 6 in the number 98 machine. To his outside will be the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman. A couple of teammates there. Very similar paint schemes here tonight. On row number 7 on the inside, Robert Dudley, the number 15 machine. One of those drivers, always very quick with Ben Mashburn. Really the unluckiest driver in the league, in my opinion, starting to his outside on row number 7. Row number 8, Barry Knapp, the 42, and Joshua Sobel in the number 30. And then on row number 9, we have Ben Adams and Travis White. And rounding out your top 20, Jason Freeman and Jeffrey Johnson.
And in 21st, we have Doug Milliner, and his outside will be Nathan Maurer. The 05 of Steven Doziak will be starting in 23rd with Mike Tellier in 24th. Stan Houseman will roll off the grid in 25th. Chris Darling slotted on into 26th. He will not be starting in that position. And Philip Scott will be starting 27th. Doug Neal will be moving up, but he will be gridded at P28. Garrett Gleason in the 007 truck will be in 29th. Justin White in 30th. And Matt Vanderkoy rounding out our field in 31st.
Absolutely. Well, folks, let's see if we can get them down to the starting lineup, and definitely going to be an interesting race here tonight. We've already seen some great super speedway races this season, and let's see if we can get things rolling here for tonight's start of the race. I might have a couple of issues with my graphics that I might need to sort out, so let's go green. We'll sort those out here in a couple of laps here, Drew, but that number 13 machine, Jordan Scheffler on the pole, about to take us to the start of tonight's race.
Yeah, our pole, Jordan Scheffler leading the field. It seems like it takes forever to get that initial green here at Talladega because of a little non-traditional start-finish line placement, as I'm sure no one has ever heard on the official NASCAR broadcast, that the start-finish line is a little different place here at Talladega. But Jordan Scheffler with a nice, solid initial start to the race as James Lorello will kind of duck down behind him in second position. It's going to be interesting to see, does that outside line really pan out? Do these guys try to go single file early on? Is that kind of a little safer way to go? But a lot of these guys don't have a lot to lose, right? It's really only your top three guys that kind of have really big stakes here at this point. So if I were one of those other drivers, I would just be trying to get up there and lead as many laps as possible and have a lot of fun, because Talladega certainly can be that way. But we're definitely seeing a little bit of fracturing towards the back of this lead pack. But up front, we are about 2-3 wide. Oh, is the 50. Now, these are penalties, folks. I believe these are penalties. The 9 of James Lorello, the 50 of Bill Edwards in that blue and white shirt. I can't quite make out who that is, but this is absolutely planned. These are as a result of actions from last week. As we look back in the pack a little bit more, it looks like the 98 truck's a little off pace there, huh, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I can sort out some gremlins that I'm having right now with iRacing, and hopefully see if we can get all the trucks visible out there on the racetrack. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why, folks. This should help out here in just a brief second. Sort all that mess out, and you could see the live timing and scoring was absolutely going nuts there for just a brief second. But here we are back live, and hopefully live timing and scoring gets all sorted out, as you should be able to see the back half of the field now. Yes, you can. So that's good news. I do apologize for some of the gremlins popping up. Sometimes they just don't pop up until all the cars are out there on the racetrack. In this instance, all the trucks out there on the racetrack. But JT Poole in the number 26 machine, he is currently out front here, Drew, and he's got a little bit of a message there on his rear spoiler.
Nice to see what that 26 there has on his spoiler. A little message for Peter, a little message for me. You know, it's always nice to see, and that very, very, very much Ricky Bobby inspired paint scheme. Always cool to see what kind of schemes these guys throw together. But we mentioned that these guys might be looking to go single file here, and basically almost the entire pack, with the exception of what's on your screen, in ones and twosies kind of here and there. But short of these three drivers trying to make that outside work, we're definitely seeing a single file basically front to back of the field, and that might be a result of NSRA's Super Speedway Series, which ran last night, which I think maybe had a little more chaos than everyone anticipated. And it was also at Talladega, so maybe that's kind of spooked these guys into behaving a little bit more, not wanting quite a few cautions here and there. It'll be interesting to see though how this develops. It's always easy to be pretty chill on lap 4 when you get close to halfway and they're on past. It's a little more urgency in these guys, and we're going to start to see them try to position themselves for the rest of the race.
You're right on board here with Colin Ullery in the number 62 machine, who really needs to turn around his chase here tonight, Drew, after having a very dismal Michigan last week. He's pretty much written himself off for the championship, but if he gets a little bit of good luck here tonight at Talladega, as we ride on board with him, things can start to change for the final few races, because definitely there are a couple of drivers like some of those further back, like James Lorello. You see him right here, like Bill Edwards, who a couple of those teammates, those S2R machines hooked up together with the number 07 of Ben Izenga, who you ride on board with here. Those drivers all trying to stick together to try and stay on the lead lap, but it might be a little bit difficult for them as they're 22.5 seconds off the race lead right now.
Yeah, that is a certainly, I mean, what might appear to be a low-risk proposition, but depending on what happens with those guys' lap times relative to the leaders, they very, very well could lose this pack. It's going to be interesting to see what that interval changes like as those guys kind of start to push those trucks a little bit more rather than continuing to drop back. But 22 seconds will give them plenty of time if something were to happen. But right now, I think that probability is fairly unlikely, though I've seen huge wrecks result from guys running in single file. So no, anything can happen as the 13 just gets up the track a little bit. And something like that in a split second can cause a really big wreck that when you're running single file, you can't necessarily see because these spoilers are so tall and you sit a little more upright in these trucks than I think maybe the B cars or the Cup cars, but visibility is still pretty limited here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this gives you an indication, folks, of what it's like on the roof of one of these trucks looking down. So you can already kind of see that visibility really start to diminish, but especially is when you're a little bit further down. Here you are on board. I mean, you can see there, Drew, you just see rear spoiler out the back of the 971 and Nathan Maurer as we ride on board with the 77 of Doug Neal, that Simbox sponsored machine. And got to give a big shout out to Simbox, not only the series sponsor here in the Simbox Truck Series, but also the sponsor of tonight's race. Make sure you check them out. Simbox's Facebook link is in the description for tonight's video. So if you're in the market for button boxes, whether it's for iRacing, Flight Simulator, etc., make sure you check out our friends over at Simbox because they give you a great quality product for a fantastic price as they work together. Those two Simbox trucks of Maurer and 77 here of Neal, who we ride on board with, trying to get a little bit closer up to the front of the field, but so far, not very racy here, Drew.
Yeah, it's certainly not what I was really expecting. I was expecting some of the field to kind of go single file, not the majority of the field, as that 33 takes a dramatic cut down towards the bottom of the track. It's on the apron there a little bit, and that can really unsettle this truck, especially through the tri-oval. There's not a lot asked of this truck handling-wise here at Talladega, except for the tri-oval. The tri-oval, things can get a little sketchy. That very bottom lane is just not quite as banked as the rest of the track, and it kind of de-wedges the truck, and it can get a little loose. And then when you get on the apron on top of that, you're really talking about having your hands full with that truck. But luckily, that 33 was able to keep it under control. But that can get out of hand really, really quickly and cause a really big mess of things up here. But 4 trucks now on that outside lane as JT Poole kind of got cycled just a little bit there from that race lead earlier on, just a couple laps ago. But that outside lane of 4 trucks, we'll see. The tandem kind of was so big in iRacing for so long that they've worked really hard on making it not really feasible. And with these trucks, they're not the Cup cars. They're certainly not what the CLT was. They don't really match up terribly well. They're not horrible, but they're not terribly well suited to that type of driving. But that is typically what can really make those smaller grooves when you only have 2 or 3 trucks on the outside lane. If you could do that bumper lock tactic, it can really make that plausible and make it work really, really well. But we're not even seeing anything like that right now, as those 2 outside lane trucks that are left are now really broken apart, and those guys are going to fall back really quickly.
Yeah, without a doubt. Here comes the 84 of TJ Buck with the number 13, and look at Robert Dudley there in the number 15 machine. I know we've talked about him quite a bit this season. Has definitely shown a lot of pace in that truck, but just hasn't seemed to be able to finish off races like he should be able to, as the field here mostly single file, which is very strange to see, especially with these trucks, Drew. We often talk about how big the draft is with these trucks because of how large that spoiler is the number 13 of Scheffler now all over the back bumper. Whoa, this is now starting to get a little bit racy. 3 wide for the race lead here on 3 wide TV as they go off into turn number 3, but that inside line is formed up. Is TJ Buck going to slot back in? Yes, he will. What about the number 15 machine, who's now starting to slide back? Robert Dudley, we just mentioned his name, and all of a sudden seems like he's getting freight trained, but here comes the number 33 machine of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. He's going to try and go up to the high side, but he's got no help up there.
Yeah, interesting moves by some of these drivers, like Robert Dudley taking it 3 wide with basically just yourself, another truck on the outside with no help, and the entire bottom lane. It's basically happening again as Dudley decides to do that. An interesting tactic by that 15. You're not making a lot of friends out there when you're one of just 1 or 2 trucks on that high lane and you're taking it 3 wide. Guys aren't going to be really super happy about that or willing to work with you probably in the future. I know. I certainly wouldn't want to help a guy that just decided to make it 3 wide when we're the only 2 trucks in the high lane. But we'll see, right? That is one thing at Talladega that, if you hang a guy out early on, that's going to be in the back of that driver's mind later in the race. And if it comes down to it and he could help you or help somebody who's not you and the other guy didn't hang him out, he's probably going to pick the other guy. So kind of knowing those relationships and how that can work and that guys keep track of that stuff, I think that's what really helps kind of elevate guys who tend to just keep being successful at super speedways. They know how to work with guys. They know when you need to make a move for selfish reasons and when you can kind of keep with a guy and keep drafting him and hopefully he'll reciprocate later on. I think that kind of stuff is almost not as emphasized as it once was, probably like the late 90s, early 2000s. I know that was really big, right? If you hung out the Intimidator, he wasn't going to help you if that was his only option at that point. But it'll be interesting to see, do these guys kind of remember that stuff? Is the 15 going to be hung out later on in this race? We shall see.
Yeah, that is for sure. We're right on board here with Doug Milliner. As you can see, the whole field in front of him here tonight. He's running back there with Ben Mashburn. They're trying to not lose the draft where they are right now. There you see the number 39 machine. Great to have Stan Hausman in the field here tonight in the Tropical Smoothie Cafe machine. You also will see Brookstone Animal Hospital on that number 39 Ford F-150. So great to have Stan back in the show here tonight after missing a few races. There's the 007 James Bond. That, of course, is Garrett Gleason here in tonight's field. And number 7 is a number that's very synonymous with Garrett Gleason as he's trying to just hold out in the back. Same thing with some of the other drivers back there. There's Matt Vander Kooi in the number 60. And Drew, we're just probably starting to see some of these drivers start to think about the big one and start to realize that, they want to get to the end of the race. But meanwhile, up the front, we got the 44 machine. What a power move by Philip Scott to go to the outside. 3 wide once again for the race lead.
Once again, the middle kind of gets hung out right there is that 84 truck is not having a lot of people help him out. TJ Buck there in that red and blue truck. Yeah, he's just kind of stuck in no man's land. And honestly, it's not what it used to be. It used to be the middle was basically a death sentence as far as track condition is concerned. But I found that if you manage it right, if you know how to just kind of steal a little bit of draft off of the inside and the outside lanes, you can make it work. And we're seeing that 84 really make that middle groove work. We'll see if he ducks down. He's thinking about it. He does. And now we're back to 2 wide, just back there towards the tail end. And here he comes back out. Got a little bit of momentum from ducking back in, and now he takes it back to the outside. Now with the lead of that outside groove, and we will see, can he get up there and mix it up for the race lead?
Yeah, that is definitely going to be very interesting to see exactly how they got tight there. The 33 and the 84 almost had it coming together. Jordan Scheffler continuing to lead. He's led 5 laps in the race so far. JT Poole has led 4 as well. Dudley, Buck, Scott, the only other drivers to lead a lap in this race here as we work lap number 15. And it probably won't be all too long, Drew, before we see these trucks come down pit road. You'd think maybe somewhere around lap number 20 or so because of the fact they use a slightly smaller fuel tank. I think based on my calculations, they might just be able to make it to about lap between 20 and 22 is my calculation on scratch paper. Based off of what I've heard from the drivers. So definitely going to be interesting to see exactly if that holds true or not. Of course, you can save quite a bit of fuel if you're running at the back of the pack and, using that draft to take the air off the nose, reduce the drag on the race car. So we'll see how that comes into the fray, but you can see pretty much all single file once again, except for the 44 of Philip Scott and the 42 of Barry Knapp.
Yeah, those guys are kind of not in an actual way, but it's creating a little bit of separation between those top four and those guys behind him. You can see what driving side by side with another driver can do. It just disrupts the airflow, just dirties that air a little bit, and your truck doesn't slide through the air as efficiently, and it just makes it a little slower. They're not lifting off. Nobody's lifting here at Talladega. If they are, something horrible's happened in front of them, typically. But you can see that with this package, it's very unlikely, I think, to break the field apart when kind of the old breakaways used to happen at Talladega and Daytona, when the top 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 guys would be single file, and then behind them would be double wide, and you just see them start pulling away. I think that's pretty unlikely here with these trucks, but it certainly can create just a little bit of separation and basically make it to where if you're that inside guy and it's too wide, you don't really have a lot of places to go at that point, unless you're willing to force a 3 wide. And while Talladega, you can make 3 wide work, if you can make 3 wide work anywhere, it still can be pretty hairy out there in these trucks because, like we mentioned, just the visibility is so restricted. I know last night in the Cup cars that they have that little piece of like Lexan on the spoilers, and you still really struggle to kind of see what's going on in that outside lane. And there was a wreck that happened to the outside of me, and then all of a sudden guys turned down in front of me from crash, and I had no idea they were even wrecking because you're kind of so limited in visibility in these things. So now running single file like this is certainly a great way to prevent it, but with single file you can't see the guys that are kind of around you because they're all directly in front of you or behind you. So while it kind of reduces risk, it can actually limit your visibility a little more because you basically can only see the truck in front of you. So if something happens 3 trucks in front of him, you're not going to be able to see that except for maybe some smoke until you're right up on it already. As now we're going back 2 wide here as that 15 forced it underneath the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson, and good Lord, did he cut that close there, Peter.
Yeah, that was it definitely looked tight. I know we were looking back out of Jordan Scheffler at the number 15 machine of Robert Dudley, but definitely looked like Jeffrey Johnson Jr. there kind of slicing his way in right behind the number 15 machine. And folks, we haven't mentioned the yellow drivers on the left-hand side of your screen. Those are the drivers, of course, gunning for the championship here in the Simbox Truck Series Chase. They're qualified as being the top 10 drivers, but you'll see only 9 real names on there running here tonight as Christopher Darling. He is technically on that list, but he will not be racing in tonight's event as we go side by side once again with the 33 and the 15. But we got takers on pit road, the number 15 machine, Robert Dudley, Jordan Scheffler as well, TJ Buck in the number 84 machine, but not a whole lot of takers here on pit road.
I would imagine everyone trying to make it to lap 20, right? You kind of have a nice square strategy with that. If you come down every 19 laps, you're going to be a few laps short at the end of being able to make it. So, I think that's the reason more guys weren't willing to come down with these 3 is they didn't want to be the guys that ultimately had to save fuel there at the end, which would really, really compromise your ability to compete out there. But these 3 are pitting. It's certainly not over for these 3. They could stretch it to lap 20 if they choose, just like the rest of the field. I don't think these 3 are getting, worse fuel mileage than everybody else out there. That would be kind of peculiar. But I think we're going to see pretty much everybody else come down pit road this time. And here comes most of the rest of the field. Speaking of, that 33 woes it up real good there. About 6 guys stayed out, but that's basically everybody else. So it's always an eventful situation getting on pit road at Talladega. You don't have a ton of reference points other than like kind of the curve of that yellow line that kind of guides you onto pit road. That's typically what I use as a good gauge. But these brakes also really don't work well to minimize drag for these trucks. So it's always a little hairy, different braking points, different anticipated practices and whatnot and approaches to get on pit road. So if one guy gets on the brakes and he's right in front of you and you don't, you're going to hit him in, as we know, Peter, right? It's happened to us at Daytona a few seasons ago. You can wreck your whole team real quickly at these super speedways coming onto pit road.
Yeah, and we saw issues getting to pit road last week at Michigan as well. It's not all that easy, but these drivers here making it look easy, as Josh Sobel there at the top of your screen coming in the bright green machine with Mitchell Adams, Monty Glover, Colin O'Leary, Ben Adams, and Andrew Hillman there in the number 4 machine. You see they are all getting into their pit box. Now I'm looking up and down my live timing and scoring here, Drew, as we got some cars at speed currently being led by the number 23 of Travis White. We'll see how everything shakes out. Just looking to see if there were any pit road speeding penalties on pit road. Not seeing any, and that is good news. We did have, I think Barry Knapp decided to take 4 tires. It appears TJ Buck might have taken 4 tires as well, but 2 tires throughout the remainder of the field. As you look at your current race leaders trying to close in on some of the cars just now peeling off pit road, you can see him right there on the left-hand side of your screen, led by Mitchell Adams. Here comes Travis White going past Andrew Himmelman, now blowing past the 5 of Adams, trying to catch up to Sobel. But the good job for this group of people just now merging back onto the racetrack here, Drew, because I think they are all going to be in the lead pack. We'll have to see exactly how everything shuffles out, because you and I know there will be some drivers in this round of pit stops end up losing the lead draft.
Yeah, that's one thing that typically is a frequent occurrence coming down pit lane is you will have those 1s, 2s, 3s that just don't quite get on and off pit road, maybe slide to their marks a little bit, that ultimately costs them time. And I think we really didn't see very much of that. If anything, this kind of made this whole front pack a little bit more exciting here, as looking back at the 9 of Lorello with his teammates, they have actually done a pretty good job there, as Bill Edwards and James Lorello. They were at one point 22 seconds behind the race leader, now just down to 9 seconds. So we were worried about them. They all came down pit road, had that drive-through. Luckily, Talladega doesn't put you a lap down. Not even close. Only puts you about half a lap down. And those guys were able to do a good job drafting, working with each other. And now if they keep this up, especially with the way this pack's racing now, as you guys can see, 2x2x2, basically the whole front pack, it's going to allow James Lorello, Bill Edwards, Ben Izinga, I think Steven Doziak's a part of that group, Barry Knapp, Ben Mashburn, Jason Freeman. I think all those guys are going to kind of be drug up there as these leaders race side by side and by default kind of just slow themselves down.
Yeah, we're on board right now with Robert Dudley as he heads down the backstretch, and you can see he's kind of running a little bit lower, not exactly tucked up behind the 971 of Nathan Maurer there, but definitely that those 2 grooves, those 2 lines of trucks finally starting to get a little bit racy here at Talladega, as they're actually starting to catch up, I believe, to the 00 of Garrett Gleason, and I believe Gleason actually might have had a speeding penalty right there at the end of that run. He had a lengthy pit lane time in that truck. He's currently 1 lap down, and I believe about to fall 2 laps down. Yes, that is the case. So not looking good here for Garrett Gleason in the early running. He is going to need that Brookstone Animal Hospital lucky dog twice to get back on the lead lap. But the good news is he's the only driver currently 1 or more laps down. So if a caution flag was to come out right now, as long as he's not involved in an accident, he would be that lucky dog award winner.
Yeah, and the next 2 guys, Stan Hausman, Doug Milliner, 25 seconds behind our race leader. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on that kind of delta and see if it grows or shrinks. With 2 trucks, even, you can typically have pretty decent time and not lose a massive amount. I would be surprised if this race goes caution free. But the commentator, I guess the commentator's curse on that wouldn't be too bad, because then it would go caution free. But typically you're going to see at least, wow, Peter, wow. I can't believe that just happened.
What? Oh, boy. Well, you said it. You said it. You said it. You did it. You did it to the whole field. And I'll tell you what, though. This is a big one, folks. Championship Incas. right here. Number 9 machine, James Lorello, comes into tonight as the points leader, running further back in the pack by himself. Going through the tri-oval, there's the 24 of Mashburn, and Mashburn just goes down into him, turns him on the straightaway, goes up into the wall, and that is Lorello, your points leader, folks, going up and around. Lots of rear end damage. We'll have to see how that all shakes out, but first caution flag of the night here, coming right after the quarter race distance, and that is big for your current points leader.
That's I feel bad for kind of bringing that commentator's curse upon that 9 truck, because he has quite a bit of damage. This is a big impact. I don't understand what is happening here. The 24, like, that's not a hole. That's the championship leader. That's not a hole. And you get into him, and the 50 got involved as well. The 9's teammate, who's also a guy up there in points, and that's pretty brutal for the 9. I mean, for the 9, that's not happening, right? Like, I gotta say, I don't. Oh, I think the 50 actually got through that. I thought he got a piece of it, but that's pretty brutal if you're James Lorello, I gotta say.
Yeah, that is for sure. Let's see if we can go on board with the number 50 machine right here of Bill Edwards going through the tri-oval right up against the wall. Here we go. And let's see if there's any type of contact. There's the initial contact. The number 9 machine goes spinning. The 50. Wow. I know Bill Edwards' family is watching back at home. Bill did an expert job there of getting through that melee. Now we go on board with him right now as a bunch of trucks headed down pit road. The good news for Bill Edwards is he will finally be back in the lead pack of cars, which he hasn't been since the very start of the race. We right on board with him right now. Let's see if we can figure out exactly what's going on at the front of the field. There's the 10 of Monty Glover. Looks like the 49 machine is down and away as all these trucks here making their second pit stop of the night. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Tana Himmelman saying, hey, you remember last week? There was a little bit of contact between those two last week. Dragon Tamer Studios saying, I was starting to wonder if we were going to see Fallout from Michigan. You would expect to see it on a short track. Maybe not a super speedway, but I think we just saw it right there. Rich Sobel saying, this is not how we race. Stay Tuned Sports saying, can someone make sure Chris wasn't in a truck? Yeah, well, we'll figure out. Jeff Price in the chat getting vocal. So definitely gonna be some interesting thoughts after that one, that is for sure. But your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion Mitchell Adams currently at the front of the field in front of Colin Ullery. And Drew, if there's one thing about Colin Ullery and that number 62 machine, we know from last week in the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series here on 3Wide TV for the National Sim Racing Association, Ullery knows how to get the job done on these super speedways.
He certainly can. He can whip it here at these big 2.5 and bigger tracks. I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. I think most of them are a bunch of hooey. But is the 24 and the 47 teammates, Peter?
That they would be.
No, I do not. I am not asserting that Chris would have, ordered his teammate to do that. I know that there were quite a few individuals unhappy with James Lorello, but I do think that when you're on a team like that together, that you can kind of build that same kind of feelings towards another driver when something like that happens. And as the 24 has just been disqualified by one Chris Darling, so he will not be back out on track, as I think that was determined to be intentional. So some really big implications right there.
Without a doubt, that number 24 machine will go no further here tonight. But hey, we were just talking about Garrett Gleason in the 007 machine a little while ago and saying he needed a caution to pick up that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. Well, it would be lucky for Garrett Gleason to get one of those laps back, and that is exactly what happens. He's going to come down pit road, top her off with fuel, get back out there on the racetrack. Now only one lap down, as you see a couple of the other trucks coming down to top them off. Doug Neal there, the 2 machine, 971, the 33, and 39 of Stan Hausman there, the Tropical Smoothie Cafe machine. just now getting rolling. Garrett Gleason as well. So maybe some slightly different strategies. James Lorello, however, in the number 9 machine, sitting in his pit box right there, hopefully getting as much damage repaired as possible. But like I mentioned, Drew, now sitting 1 lap down, and it won't be in that lucky dog spot, currently being scored 29th. And that is definitely not going to be a good night for James Lorello. We'll have to see if he can get that damage repaired and back up to speed. But he's already been in his pit box here for 3 minutes. We'll see if he can get rolling before the pace car eventually does roll off. But speaking of the pace car rolling off, the pace car lights are off. So we will go back to green flag action. And Atana Himmelman saying the parking lot is getting full here at the racetrack. So definitely going to be a lot of talking points after tonight here at Talladega. There's still a lot of racing left to go, though, as we have 69 laps to go this time by, Drew.
Yeah, I think the this is when I wish iRacing were like real life. We were all in person and we got to see these guys talk to each other in person. I do think that one kind of thing about sim racing is because you are not held accountable by another person, right? Like you're doing this on a sim. People behave a little differently than they would if those were real individuals they were racing against. And I think that's kind of allowed people to kind of treat people in a different way than you would treat another human, because sometimes it doesn't feel very human. But it would certainly be an interesting hauler meeting at the very least, right, Peter? Like that certainly would be eventful. Though, as we are bringing them back to green flag here, as that 49 truck elected to take the high lane on this restart. Mitchell Adams leading the field to the green. A great restart by that 49 truck here, now on lap 30. He is in a pretty good position here, ducks that 49 truck down onto the bottom lane, and we'll see. These guys were getting pretty racy up here in this main pack before that caution came out, and are they going to keep that racy positioning up now that the field's kind of bunched back together?
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see. I'm also got my eye on pit road because James Lorello in the number 9 machine continues to sit in his pit box. And that crew continuing to try and fix that number 9 machine, but it might be all for naught. If he can get back out there on the racetrack, we will wait and find out. The 49, the 62, the number 13, the number 10, the number 30, though, your top 5 as of right now. Josh Sobel in that bright green Stay Tuned Sports machine. Recent news as well, they get tight there going through the trial between the 13 and the 30. The recent news here in the National Sim Racing Association world is the fact that Stay Tuned Sports will be sponsoring the next 2 seasons of the Truck Series here. So great to have Stay Tuned Sports on board, and I know we have them in the chat here tonight, so definitely very, very cool news coming out of the NSRA camp here today, Drew, and definitely going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to the Stay Tuned Sports Series and next season.
Yeah, that's a big deal for NSRA. I know they have a bunch of cool things in the works, but to get a real kind of sponsor that's from kind of an outside force, as they're like, not that Simbox is not a really cool sponsor, because they certainly are, make awesome button boxes for an affordable price. Check them out, in fact. But it's always cool to kind of bring a media sponsor into this, right? A sponsor, as we see James Lorello now coming off pit lane. Bring a sponsor that's going to talk about the league, that's going to provide the viewers that watch this broadcast a way to kind of catch up even more, to listen to some other stuff, right? Who doesn't love football, basketball, those other, like just sports in general, right? It's always a fun listen. So looking forward to that partnership into the future, as James Lorello now just kind of scrolling down on my timing and scoring, 3 laps down. I think that will be 4 when they cross the start-finish line right there. So he's got a lot of work to do in that 9 truck to try to salvage this. I got to wonder if that was taking required damage, right? I don't think you would intentionally lose that amount of time even if you didn't get all your damage fixed, but maybe that was his strategy. But I got to imagine that 9 had quite a bit of required.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his speed right now in that number 9 machine, and he is definitely not up to the pace of what we have seen of some of these trucks. Here you go. You can see that speed down there in the bottom left-hand corner of your speed. The bottom left-hand corner of your screen is the speed, I should say. And typically we see these trucks by themselves in the 170 mile an hour range. So he's about 14 miles an hour off the pace, Drew. That is a significant amount here at Talladega. You can compare that to Jordan Scheffler right now working his way through turn number 4. He's going 180 miles an hour. So that is a huge difference in speed between that number 9 machine. The man who came into tonight as the points leader most likely will not leave tonight as the points leader after this race is all said and done. And the person he's battling for that top spot with, the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, is currently your race leader with the 62 of Villery right behind him.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure Mitchell's paying attention. He's a very, very smart driver, but he's in a great position given the misfortunes of his main championship rival. Not to discredit what that 50 is going to be able to achieve tonight. Bill Edwards, I think, is one of those 3 coming into tonight that had a really good opportunity that was less than 30 points back from the now last place running driver of James Lorello. And this is what we talked about, Peter, right? That there's the potential here for stuff to really, really change as far as the championship picture is concerned. And I don't think we anticipated what happened. An incident with a driver getting disqualified and the other driver being the championship leader. But that's certainly what can do it. And that's what's happened tonight. And Mitchell Adams, with this race lead, he is trying to maximize this opportunity for the rest of this championship, right? This is what you need to do when you're the 49 truck. It would be really easy to be like, okay, well, now I need to minimize my risk to ensure that I get the best finish possible, or to ensure that I get a good solid finish, that I finish the race, that I finish it cleanly, and that I don't get involved in a wreck. But this is like Mitchell Adams just kind of ensuring that, no, I'm going to go out there and do everything that I can to gain as many points as possible. So that was a little too much contact on corner exit there as the 49 got just a little bit sideways.
Yeah, we're right on board here with the number 32 of Peter Serto working his way through the tri-oval here, running right behind that number 15 machine. You can see the rear view mirror up there at the top of the screen, just looking at the top of Peter Serto's helmet, and so far so good for Peter Serto in that number 32 Jansen machine right there, right behind a couple of these trucks in front of him. He's down there on the inside groove, but Scheffler trying to pull that outside groove with the 84 of TJ Buck right behind him.
And TJ kind of doing a good job of kind of recovering, right? We saw him get up there early on, kind of fall back, get cycled out, and he's certainly been one of those guys that's willing to really push that outside lane, make it work up there. Is now our pole sitter, Jordan Scheffler, as well on the outside lane, trying to get up there and challenge Mitchell Adams, as Mitchell's really had that bottom lane really nailed down as of late. But now we got 4 trucks up there. We have the 07 truck, Ben Izenga. We got the 42 of Barry Knapp, TJ Buck, and Jordan Scheffler in that 13 truck, all trying to make that thing work. But, Peter, we're kind of seeing what we saw early on. Guys, by and large, with the exception of 3 or 4 guys on that outside lane, just taking it single file, taking it easy. And I was kind of thinking that, okay, we got that first caution. We don't know that there's going to be another. I got to position myself in a good spot here, coming on to these green flag pit stops on exactly what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, definitely that is the case, as we right here with the number 6 machine of Doug Milliner. He's working his way a little bit further back in the pack, probably just minding his time, currently running down in the 26th position in that truck, right behind the number 2 of Justin White. And these drivers, they're playing a different strategy, Drew. We've seen one caution here in the first half of the race as we close in on the halfway distance here tonight. But so far, pretty much clean and green throughout the field, and that's always great to see here on 3 Wide TV, that these drivers, they're good drivers, and that is definitely, we've seen a lot of good racing this season, but to kind of play a different strategy. We even saw a couple of drivers top off with fuel just to get that different strategy and get on just a different timing than some of the cars around them, maybe thinking about the long game if we do go caution-free, because we have had a lot of caution-free running, except for that contact there between the 24 and the 9 machine. But just a lot of drivers running their race at this point. It's not go time yet, Drew, here at Talladega. Part of it is to finish first at these super speedway races. First, you must finish. And that's what we're seeing, a lot of single file racing tonight.
Yeah, and it's kind of speaking to last night, how I think that this has changed the way these guys race tonight is at the Super Speedway Series, you do get a fast repair. And in this truck series, you don't. So there's no gimme kind of, or I guess mulligan would be a better expression. There's no mulligan tonight, right? If you get a torn up truck like we just saw the 9, you got to put another lap down. It's going to be hard, right? Like this 9 is going to have a very, very long next 60 laps, right? Like this is not going to be fun for him. He's doing what he needs to do. He needs to go out there and run. If there's another wreck, he can gain some positions, etc., because thank you, NSRA, for not having some kind of arbitrary caution clock, one of my least favorite real-life rules, that you're able to go out there, and if you kind of have the gusto, if you have the willpower, you can get out there and just try to salvage something, which is what that 9 truck's trying to do now, 5 laps down. But the rest of this field knows that if you get a torn up truck, that's what happens, right? You're going 58 miles an hour for the next 150 miles, which is not going to be a lot of fun. It's the world's most boring Autobahn at that point. But these guys know that, and they saw what happened last night when you do get a mulligan, that guys are going to be a little bit more aggressive. And I think they kind of realized that, and they're just waiting. But the question is, you can't wait the whole race. You can't wait. The whole field can't wait till 5 to go, right? That's not. You're not going to be able to get up there and win the race at that point. So when is go time? We saw guys wait till 20 to go in real life. We've seen guys wait till 40 to go. I think anything less than 20 to go, you're really, really putting yourself in danger of not putting yourself in a position to even make a move to try to win this thing. Yeah,
that is for sure. I mean, really at this point, you got to start thinking about going down pit road. I mean, you can see up at the top of the screen, these drivers, it's been 14 laps since they were last on pit road. So you're getting to that window now, Drew, where we're starting to talk about them coming back down pit road for their next green flag pit stop. And you're going to have to hit your marks. Again and again and again. We didn't see any pit road speeding penalties, but maybe Garrett Gleason. That was unconfirmed in the 007 truck. But, with that being said, these drivers, they got to think about their strategy. They have a long race ahead of them. We're not yet to the halfway mark. We'll be halfway home now in about 8 laps from right now. So, you just have to be concerned with it. Oh man, got a little bit of some warp going on there with the number 42 machine of Barry Knapp. Good run for the AC Delco number 42 machine here tonight. Always great to see Barry Knapp up at the front of the field here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. Great looking truck right there, Drew. Reminiscent of what Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick used to run back in the day, as well as Johnny Sauter. Ron Hornaday used to run an AC Delco truck as well back in the day. So great to see that on Barry Knapp's number 42 machine, kind of that retro look on that truck. Right behind him, though, is the 07 of Ben Izenga, and he's another driver that we really have to keep our eyes on throughout the NSRA Simbox Truck Series as well, because Izenga is very, very quick. You see that truck working his way through turn number 1 and 2 right there on the center of your screen, and here again, he looks like he picked up possibly a little bit of damage in the one and only caution flag that we've had here in the first 43 laps, but so far, still running up there and running very respectable. Just inside the top 10.
He certainly is. A good recovery. We saw that 07 kind of be way back there with the 50 and the 9 at one point, and then that caution came out, and it's hard to tell if that 07 has damage, maybe a little bit of right rear, kind of hard to see. But really good job of recovering out there. As it's been because of the lack of cautions, the lack of being able to kind of reset your track position, right? Typically that kind of just, you restart where you're at, and when they run single file like this, unless you're really good at kind of laying back and getting big runs and making it work by yourself, it's really, really hard to gain track position. So, a commendable effort by that 07 truck to kind of get up there with these guys. But man, I got to imagine, I can't tell how many laps that Mitchell Adams has led, but he's got to be closing in once we get kind of close to lap 50 on locking up this most laps led, because he seems to have been out there for quite a long while. But I'd also like to point out that the pit road window's open right now, right? Basically, these guys just had to make it to lap 40, and then lap 40 on, they're not going to be able to make it to lap 60, so I don't think they're really going to be able to cut a full stop out, right? If they pit at lap 50, they're going to have to basically go 24-24. I don't really see that as being plausible, but we'll see. I mean, I guess if guys are trying to stretch their fuel window, but I got to imagine that most of these guys, if they pitted now, as long as they have another truck or two with them, that they're going to be okay.
Yeah, that is for sure. But Drew, you got to think about maybe some drivers trying different strategies. Right here on 3 Wide TV, earlier this week, the start of the ASRS, American Sim Racing Series season started. That will be broadcasting as well. Colin Ullery there flirting with the yellow line down there. That's not good. We had one truck go 40 laps at Daytona. Yes, that is on a full tank of fuel. Not like the reduced fuel tank that we run here in the Simbox Truck Series, but definitely very, very impressive. And that car was actually able to go the entire race without pitting. So on these super speedways, fuel mileage can be important. And I'm kind of doing the math in my head. If these drivers can go about 4 more laps, that'd be to lap number 50, that would give them 48 laps left to go, which means you'd have to kind of do 24 and 24. Not saying that that's doable. It probably isn't doable. But you and I know, Drew, that if you don't have to put as much fuel in the truck as one of your competitors, that can be as big of an advantage as you can get on these super speedways.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a really cohesive team strategy and you can really make it work where you all, it's now we got a bunch of guys in the back. I don't want to say, is in a crash, but a bunch of guys in the back are coming down pit road right now. So we're seeing that pit window open right here because, it's just, these guys aren't going to be able to stretch it to near lap 60, which is the problem. If they could do that, then it would change everything. But I can't. I mean, even if you could, you'd be left alone. I mean, I tried that strategy last night. I saved an extra lap or two of fuel. I could have made it to the end, and I was 3 seconds behind the pack, and it was not going to go well. Luckily, caution came out right, reset everything. But that's what can happen. You can try to play the Greg Biffle fuel mileage game that happened in 03 when he won at Daytona on fuel mileage, but it's really hard. You have to be around other guys to make that second half of that fuel strategy work. As now we're approaching lap 47. We're going to see if guys are coming down or not. No, more guys stay out. A few. Ben Izinga, looks like the 50 truck, a couple more as well coming down pit road, but only a few. The rest of this field staying out right now. And quite frankly, Talladega can be one of those places that if you don't take tires, especially with this reduced fuel load, that reduces the time you spend on pit lane. These guys probably aren't going to go a lap down here. So if a caution comes out, that kind of puts this 49 truck behind those guys that have come down pit road. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, as we're seeing guys in front of Mitchell Adams that already had their pit service, and they are well ahead of this 49 truck. So I believe we just saw the 49 call out that he's pitting. I don't have chat pulled or audible really, but I can see that he is queuing the general chat. And will we see that 49 pull off? We do, and it looks like the rest of the field's coming on. Man, those, you can see what I'm talking about when we talk about those different braking points coming onto pit lane and how quickly congested it can be, but a pretty good job by everybody involved. Didn't seem like there was any contact whatsoever, but it's what kind of pit stop do you have? Are you able to get into your pit stop cleanly? It's so easy to drive through your pit box on accident here at Talladega because there's no braking power in these vehicles that it can, and you want to talk about a huge penalty. This isn't Richmond where you can get out there and start wheeling that thing to pick up that position that you lost. You're done if you lose this draft pack because you slid through your pit box. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. A great pit stop by that 49 truck. Solid pit stop throughout the field. We have a couple stragglers, but as long as you're with other trucks, you can have a little bit of a slower stop, maybe a little more fuel than some of the other guys, and be okay as long as you're not kind of by yourself, right? As long as you have the ability to kind of get up with somebody and draft. But those guys are a little bit further behind as we see these guys coming off pit lane. And this is a huge closing rate, Peter. As you know, this is a real situation that you can really come up on some guys fast, and maybe they aren't paying attention necessarily.
Yeah, we're right on board here with Mike Floppy Tellier. He is right behind the number 98 machine of Jason Gracias, and they're already at speed. They are already wound up, and you can see they're just closing in on the race lead here as they work their way on the tri-oval. Gracias in that white SimShots number 98 right there, going for the race lead with a little bit of help from Mike Floppy Tellier, and Jason Freeman there in the number 94 going to go with him, and now they're going to start to get a little bit racy back behind him as it looks like that number 98 able to clear that group of cars. Now Jordan Shepler in the number 13, he's going to jump up to the high side. Remember what we saw last green flag run, Drew? The first couple of laps, we saw a lot of side-by-side action, and then things really calmed down. We kind of then chilled out with a lot of single file, and I'm wondering if we're going to see something similar here. A lot of double file, 2x2x2, and then as the run goes on, things start to kind of get a little bit more quiet here as we're now at 49 laps to go. Just crossed over the halfway mark here in tonight's Simbox 250 at Talladega in the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series Chase, and it has already been a very interesting night. If you're just now joining us, couple races left here in the championship. You can see that's the point standings coming into tonight. The big story is James Lorello in the number 9 machine, wrecked in that race car. The only caution flag we've had here tonight, really the only car off the racetrack beyond the number 24 machine of Ben Mashburn, who mashed into his side and sent him spinning there just across the start-finish line. And that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out at the end of the show here tonight. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, things have changed. While that graphic was up, the number 13 of Jordan Shepler has gone back to the race lead as the field goes by the number 9 machine of James Lorello once more. Just talking about him and starting to kind of get that single file look again, Drew.
Certainly are, as it's really quickly going just poorly for that 9 try. I mean, it was already a bad situation, but just to continue to not get these cautions is brutal, as now 6 laps down as that 9, as we saw a little burst of activity by this front pack, but nothing really of note. The 42, I believe, on that high lane with the 84, those guys have kind of been, if there's 2 trucks on the outside lane, it's probably TJ Buck and that 42 truck of Barry Knapp as well. As what we got queued up for the viewers.
Yeah, going down the backstretch, Colin Ullery right there, I think he just jumped down below the yellow line. That's to not run into the back of Joshua Sobel. That was kind of an erratic move. I just kind of wanted to check and see what the story was there with Colin Ullery. He's now a little bit further back in the pack, Drew, in 13th position. We've seen him up there in the top 5 for a good portion of the night, but now a little bit of work to do to get back up towards the front of the field, running right there in front of the 05 as Steven Doziak. Haven't really mentioned him tonight. Here we are on board with the Total Nonstop Racing 05 machine behind the number 62, and you see the only car on that outside line right now is the number 42 Barry Knapp, but as I say that, things start to get a little bit more racy up towards the front.
Yeah, just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. 2 individual cars. The 15, who has been another one of those guys that we have seen kind of be one of the features of the guys that are trying to make that outside lane work. And the 42 as well. Looks like the 4 of Andrew Himmelman making a move up there with a couple of guys behind him as well. So maybe a little bit of interest starting to appear for some of these drivers and making some headway, because time's running down. Right, we're at lap 54 of 98. There's not that much time potentially left in this race, and these guys got to start, setting themselves up for these next couple pit stops, because this is likely going to determine. It's not going to win you the race, but it very well could lose you the race if you're one of these last trucks coming onto pit road and you have a tiny bobble. Right, maybe you just are a little too conservative. It can take you out of the ability to compete for this win, or it can just basically put you in a certain track position to where there's no way that you can maneuver your way up there. So now we're really starting to see this high lane develop, as I think these guys are starting to realize that, hey, we need to get up there. That's 26 JT Poole, 13 to Jordan Shepard, the two guys leading the field as now the 26 cuts down low, leaving that 15 to fend for himself up high. Now we're seeing the 84 truck take it 3 wide back there at around the 10th position or so. He's on the outside of Drew Himmelman in that 4 truck, as Colin Ullery, the 42 of Barry Knapp, the 15 of Robert Dudley, all racing with each other. And it looks like the 15's making a move potentially on the high lane of that 15 truck. Barry Knapp thinks a little bit better of it, and that's going to kind of leave the 84 out there, but the 42 fades wide just a little bit. I wonder if the 84 rather had to check up right there. But now you really start to see that whole outside lane disintegrate. Now, it seemed like there were 12 trucks. Now there's just 4 trucks, and they're going 3 wide back there, which isn't really helping their cause.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I mean, just as you were saying, and I was thinking the same thing, okay, now we're starting to see things really start to get racy. Yeah, it seems like it all kind of calms down again. I had a brief period there where we had probably 8 trucks side by side all the way back through around the 15th position or so, and now we get mostly single file with just that outside line led by the number 15 of Robert Dudley. Now will they start to get a little bit racy again as the 98 and the number 97 and the number 94, those 3 drivers of Gracias, Tellier, and Jason Freeman there. Of course, Freeman, a 2-time winner this season in the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. They start to get lined up. Those are 3 drivers that cut their teeth in the Total Nonstop Racing League that we broadcast here on 3Y TV, now over here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series, trying to get themselves win. They're starting to get lined up again. We saw them all pit together, and maybe they can mount a charge on the 13 and the 26. But for right now, JT Poole is under fire from the number 15 of Robert Dudley, who's got the number 84 of TJ Buck, trying to push him to the race lead. That's, I'd say, as strong as 2 drivers, a puller and a pusher, that I've seen on that outside groove all race long, Drew.
Certainly is. Which is surprising. There's only 3 trucks on that high lane, and they're making it work. We've seen that 80, well, now 2 trucks. 15, Robert Dudley clears and says, okay, I'm going to the bottom 2. And just like that, we saw the high lane have just a surge of momentum. I mean, the 15 did the smart thing, right? I don't think that was really going to last more than that kind of surge that they had. But the 84 and the 42 are just kind of falling back now. But not only are these guys single file, they're really spaced out, right, towards the middle and back of this front pack. Like, we're talking a couple tenths between trucks. So that's not going to really allow, what you're seeing right there is basically what we're seeing throughout the field. Just some pretty big gaps between all those trucks. You can see them coming out of turn 2 now. That's because guys are just maintaining that gap. They're not imparting other energy into that bottom lane to make it a little more dynamic, make it like a little bit more stuff happen up there. But we're seeing some of these front guys. They don't care that the high lane's not worked too well. They still want to get up there and make stuff happen. Is that 13 of Jordan Shepler, our pole sitter? He's now trying to make that high lane work, and just no one's willing to go up there right now. I thought the 44 truck was going to. He didn't. Now the 07 comes onto pit lane, our 28th place runner. I don't think this is a scheduled stop necessarily. He's in his pit window. We think these guys can make it 20 laps, and now we just have 40 to go. So we talked about that, Peter. If you want to do a little alternative strategy, if you kind of maybe have 2 or 3 teammates out there, you can make this work. You could pit right now and make it on one more stop, and I don't think these guys are going to be able to cut a full pit stop out.
So let's, at the top of the screen, bring up laps since pits. So it's been 11 laps since we last saw your leader, JT Poole, on to pit road. Like you mentioned, the pit window at this point, if it isn't open yet, it is very, 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 very close to being open for all the drivers. Sometimes, of course, if you are the leader, you're going to use more fuel because you're punching the holes in the air. So it is going to be at that point here very, very shortly in a lap or 2 that we're going to see all these drivers. But look at the number 84 of TJ Buck trying to slice his way up through the middle in that Captain Crunch machine.
84, again, we've talked about the 82 and the 84 and the 42 have been 2 of those guys that are just making just they keep going when they see an opportunity to the high lane, and they're up there once again now pushing that 13 truck. It's just, they're making it known that, hey, I want to run in the high lane. I'm willing to work with you guys. but we need some help. And that's certainly, drivers will take note of that. They'll know that, hey, these guys are willing to go out there and not just Greg Biffle the inside lane and push guys to victory lane. They want to go out there and make stuff happen, and that's what they're doing. They're pushing the crap out of this 13 truck, and will he stay to that outside lane? If the 13 doesn't abandon it, I think he was kind of forced into it as 3 wide now for the race lead. A little hairy there. The 84 kind of pinches him a little bit. The 13 cuts back down. What I was hoping would happen there, as we queue up a replay for you folks, is that they would keep that outside lane as a viable option for people, and then that would pull more drivers up there. As you see, the 26, is that that's a yellow line violation, if I'm not mistaken there, Peter, and will that 26 get a penalty?
Well, it's got to be interesting exactly to see how they all rule that. Of course, no passing below the yellow line is typically the rule. Did the number 13 machine just slide down the racetrack enough and the 26 reacted to it? We'll have to wait and see if something is called here, but that could definitely be a bad omen for that number 26 machine, as now Jordan Scheffler running back behind him after that brief moment of chaos here around the racetrack. Again, getting kind of single file up towards the front. There's the number 84 of TJ Buck continuing to try and get that outside line wound up. You see the number 15 of Robert Dudley, who lost the lead. He was pushed to the race lead a little while ago by that number 84 machine. Kind of was expecting him to jump back up in front of TJ Buck, because Buck did a fantastic job of getting Dudley to the race lead, but at least for right now, Dudley's going to stay on that inside groove behind the number 13 machine of Jordan Scheffler. Great run for that number 13 here tonight, as the field comes up to put Lorello yet another lap down in that heavily damaged number 9 machine here tonight. Again, anything can happen here in the closing laps here. That could swing in his favor, but the man he's battling for the points lead, Mitchell Adams right there, is currently running in the 13th position. But Drew, I'm looking at the top 10 right now. Only 2 chase drivers inside the top 10. A lot of drivers coming here tonight to Talladega trying to play spoiler.
And there's a really good opportunity for a lot of those guys. I mean, if that 84 gets up there, wins this race, and Mitchell Adams just kind of runs where he is now in 13th, he really puts himself in a position to where if he has a strong close to this championship, he can get up there. But there's a lot of guys that have no championship shot, that don't care about that stuff, that are up front right now, right? I mean, guys like JT Poole, he's not in the chase. Jordan Scheffler, Robert Dudley, a lot of these guys, even if they are in the chase, they haven't really had the start to that they would want, and it's basically put themselves out of position to try to win this. As now we start to see the pit lane window has been open, but these are our first takers of guys up there. The 77 of Doug Neal, Nathan Maurer, and I believe that is the White, I believe. Yeah, Travis White, I believe, in that 23 truck, if I'm identifying him correctly. But much of the field still staying out. JT Poole, TJ Buck are 2 guys out there. And I got to say, that's impressive to see what those, that 84 and 42 are doing. Just 2 cars on that outside lane, making it just keep up with those guys on the inside there. That's not a lot of energy that those guys can kind of work with, and you can blow these things up pretty quickly if you push for too long. So they're doing a pretty fantastic job there. I'm just surprised we haven't seen more guys willing to make that outside lane work, if I'm honest, Pete.
Yeah, and we only have 2 trucks out there on the outside line, but you think back to what we saw at the beginning of the race when we had the number 50 of Bill Edwards, the number 9 of James Lorello, and the 07 of Ben Izenga. Those 3 trucks, they were locked up nose to tail for lap after lap, and they were catching the lead pack. So we know that if you can get 3 trucks lined up together perfectly, lap after lap, they can be as strong as a giant pack. So they did a fantastic job gaining, I think, like you mentioned, Drew, like 12 seconds or something like that, just working together. So it doesn't take many trucks. It just takes a really good pusher to push a truck to the front to get them quick. And that's what Barry Knapp is doing right now for the number 84 of TJ Buck as they go once again side by side at the start-finish line. JT Poole will lead his 14th lap here around the Talladega Superspeedway. Currently, Mitchell Adams in his number 49 machine is the driver who has so far led the most laps at 27. Jordan Scheffler in the number 13 has led the same amount of laps as his car, number 13 for him. And then it's Robert Dudley, TJ Buck, Jason Gracias. Those three drivers have only combined to lead 7 laps between them. Meanwhile, the rest of the field Adams, Poole, and Scheffler, between them, they have combined to lead 54 laps here in the first 65 laps. This is the number 97 of, that is Mike Floppy Tellier, pulls off the racetrack, got the number 98 and the number 94 with him, Steven Doziak and also Philip Scott all coming down. This is a group of drivers from the Total Nonstop Racing League, so no big surprise that they're all coming down pit road all together. And meanwhile, up at the front, that has kind of broken up the pack just a little bit, Drew.
Yeah, it has the potential, but these guys have, as a field, as a whole, have done such a good job getting on and off pit road at relatively competitive speeds with each other that we haven't really seen pit stops break up the field like we typically do. Like, typically that is what causes the long green runs. If you can get to that first pit stop, it's going to really fracture the field into probably 3 packs typically. And if they're kind of even in size, they're not really going to catch each other. But we haven't seen that tonight. We've seen guys basically mirror each other's strategies, but I think this one's a little different. This one, you're not necessarily having to take a full fuel load if you want to split this run in half, right? It'll be interesting to see what these guys do. As far as that's concerned, is I believe the 05, that's unusual. We're seeing some trucks go a lap down here, which I don't think we were necessarily anticipating, that we haven't seen thus far. Typically, guys have been able to get in front of these leaders. I wonder if they took all 4 tires, which you definitely don't really want to be doing here at Talladega. It's typically you take rights and then lefts and then rights and then lefts. You typically don't ever take all 4s because you just don't need to. But we're seeing this is potentially beneficial for our field, though, as they kind of use these guys for a little bit of drafting help. But here comes the 26, here comes the 13, the 15, the 84. Well, actually, not as many as I was expecting. I thought when those 4 would come down pit road, everybody would. But basically, our top 4 as they run right now, or previous to them pitting, have come down pit road. And when are these other guys going to pit, and how is this going to really impact the rest of this race?
Oh, man, there might have been a little bit of contact between the 26 and the number 13. We'll see if we can get one more look of this one on board with the number 26 machine, and boy, that was close. I don't think there was any contact. If there was any, it might have been a little bit of a neck code. We'll see when those trucks start to roll. They're rolling now, but meanwhile, like you mentioned, Drew, a couple of trucks elected to stay out, including Peter Serto, who led that last lap right in front of the number 62 of Colin O'Leary, Andrew Himmelman there, Ben Adams, Mitchell Adams in the number 49 machine. Also, as you see a couple of the slower trucks that have already pitted in front of them, now they're all going to come down onto pit road this time, trying to get it woed up. Man, Ben Adams late on that brake pedal to get these trucks down to pit road speed. Haven't seen all too many pit road speeding penalties tonight. That is the good news. These drivers definitely got a lot of practice getting into their pit boxes and onto pit road. As you see, the 32 doing a great job there. The 49 getting into his pit box there. Monty Glover and the number 10 probably coming in a little bit gingerly in his truck. And, he doesn't want to pull a Chris Darling. He doesn't want to slide through his pit box, so I don't blame him as you see all these trucks now starting to roll back out there into the racetrack.
Yeah, we're really starting to see this kind of take shape. We saw some guys get on and off pit road in a really efficient manner as far as, I want to say, the 62, 77. A bunch of those guys, I believe, Floppy Tellier, Jason Gracias, I don't think the 98's a part of that, but the 77, Nathan Maurer, the 60 truck as well, I think is up there. Matt Vanderkoy. So those guys nailed their pit stops. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to get run down, but they are maintaining it single file. And what I talked about, that we hadn't seen it really fractured all race. Well, we've seen it now. And what will this do as far as the rest of the race is concerned? Will these guys be able to close up this gap? Because that's an awful lot of trucks to be running single file to catch.
Yeah, and you're riding on board with the man who is currently your race leader. That is Ben Edwards right in front of Ben Izenga. So, Bill Edwards in the number 50. I think I said Ben Edwards. Getting my B's mixed up there between Bill Edwards and Ben Izenga. We currently 1-2. Matt Vanderkoy in the number 60. Also a great pit time for that Milwaukee Brewers F-150. Haven't talked all too much about Matt Vanderkoy. And really, Vanderkoy's one of those drivers, Drew, who's just really quiet for a good portion of the race. And then all of a sudden, he'll pop up. And here tonight, I think first half of the race, played it really easy. But with that stellar pit stop, that number 60 is now up into the third position, right in front of the 971 of Nathan Maurer, the 77 of Doug Neal, and the 23 of Travis White. They were the first adopters down pit road in the 971, the 77, and the 23 machine. So fantastic job by those trucks who were not part of that lead pack, but they were able to stick together, draft, push each other to a spot where they were able to get now as part of this lead train.
And we keep bringing up championship implications because it can just swing so wildly here at Talladega. Bill Edwards, I thought he got a huge piece of that wreck when his teammate was turned on the front stretch in the early part of this race. He's our leader now. And Mitchell Adams way down in 16th position. So this would be a heck of a result. I mean, just really maintaining this pack. Even if I think there's going to be 3 trucks that potentially catch him, yeah, you start to see the 98, Jason Gracias, the 97, the 94, all in line with each other. The 98's kind of in a precarious situation. We'll see if that happens. But basically, there's 3 trucks that might join this group, which would put him at 9 trucks. Then the 10th place truck, the 10th place on back pack is 6.5 seconds back. That is a big margin. And it's kind of surprising to me, Peter, that the guys who pitted earlier, who took a bigger load of fuel, managed to gap the rest of the field. I really wasn't quite expecting that, but that's going to be hard for those guys to overcome.
Yeah, and you can see that gap there on your screen. That is a significant gap, folks. Back to those trucks behind. In fact, you can't even see him out back of that number 98 machine of Jason Gracias right now as he works his way coming out of turn number 4 onto the tri-oval. There's the 23 machine. Now this group of drivers tries to go to the high side to make a charge for the race lead. There is the 94, Jason Freeman, leading the 97 of Tellier and the number 98 of Jason Gracias. Edwards still leading the inside group with Izenga, Vanderkoy, Maurer, Neal, and Travis White there in the number 23 machine. But now that they're starting to kind of get double file, maybe that second group of trucks that is currently being led by JT Poole, there they are. Can they get in line? Can they run down this front pack here in the final 25 laps? Make sure you stay right here on 3Y TV so we can find out who's going to walk away with the win here tonight at Talladega. And Drew, if the first race at Talladega earlier this season was any indication of how wild of a finish we can get, this one could be a nail-biter all the way to the drop of the checkered flag.
Yeah, we saw the race winner slide across the start-finish line sideways in that race. We'll see if tonight's race can match that exciting finish. But I understand why the 97, the 98, and the 94 truck all decided to go double file. But this is not what is beneficial for their chances for a race win. It's now we're going 3 wide. If these guys just maintained, and we saw a pretty decent sized moment there from the 971, I believe is what we're going to see right here. As looking down at these guys coming down the backstretch, Nathan Maurer, Doug Neal on that outside. Yeah, you just see some aggressive pushing from that 94, 98, and 97. Now, I got to be honest, in the race last night, Floppy Tellier was one of those guys that was pretty hyper-aggressive in their pushing. And, that's one of those guys that I was just on a lookout tonight about that, what are they going to do? And that lost that pack. That front pack to the second pack, 0.8 of a second. That type of racing, that type of aggression, and that's fine in the short term. But folks, we still have 23 laps to go. That's the stuff you need to do with 5 to go. I really don't understand the lack of patience that is being displayed by a lot of these guys in the lead pack. If you guys really want to get up there and win this race and not have anyone outside the top 10 influence it, this is not the type of racing these guys need to be doing. They need to be working with each other for this short term and trying to not lose ground to that second pack, but pull away from that second pack so you can determine it amongst yourselves. I just don't really understand why, forcing it 2-3 wide is needed at this point when you're really trying to seal this up for a good finish for all you guys up there. But we'll see. That last time by, maybe only a tenth or two gained or lost by that second pack. Not a big deal, but these guys are still racing side by side here. And sometimes you kind of have that bigger picture in mind. Racing can be fun, but ultimately, if you can make your competition smaller in number, it's easier to win, right?
Yeah, that is definitely the case. I know we've done that before. You and I, Drew, on super speedways, working to kind of mitigate the other cars. I mean, you want to be in a 4-car race right at the end of one of these races at Talladega. You don't want to be with 20 other trucks. I mean, yeah, 20 other trucks might be fun, but if you can be in a smaller group, your chances of winning go up astronomically on these super speedways, because anything can happen in a very short amount of time here. So we'll see if this lead pack can get formed back up. Currently, they have a 4.2 second gap from the race lead back to the number 62 of Ullery, but right now Ullery is absolutely moving. Let's see if we can go on board with that number 62 machine, as he is definitely, you can see those trucks there at the top of the screen. Still a pretty big difference here, Drew. But if we look at their last lap times, you see Ullery was actually a little bit slower off of JT Poole, but now it's about 3 seconds. But we'll continue to watch that time delta, see if it continues to drop. As you see, possibly a couple of adopters, or is that the number 9? That is the number 9 of James Lorello, just now coming back out onto the racetrack, many laps down with a heavily damaged race car. But you can see that last time by about half a second, Colin Ullery closing in on now Matt Vanderkoy in the 60.
Yeah, and that 23 truck just still's maintaining that high lane instead of dragging the brake and getting the heck in line and being a team player, even though these guys might not be your teammates. Ultimately, do you want to have to be battling through 19th or 9th, right? Like, I don't quite understand. And I got to be honest, I think at this point, there's enough draft of this first pack to that second pack that it's kind of over at this point. I guess I don't understand why you would feel the need to race your butt off for 6th place and cost yourself an increased chance, just statistically, because you're reducing the number of cars you're competing against of winning this race. It doesn't quite frankly make sense to me, but I'm not out there. These guys are. So, they get to kind of do whatever they want, regardless of what I think about it. What do we got queued up here, Pete?
This is the number 6 machine of Doug Milliner going down the backstretch. And that number 6 machine comes right down across the nose of Barry Knapp, goes down, spinning on the backstretch. There was no caution flag. This happened about 2 laps ago now, about a lap and a half to 2 laps ago, and backs it into the inside wall. That is absolute heartbreak for the number 6 machine. We stay green flag, but there he is all by himself in that number 6 truck. Definitely going to need a caution flag to catch back up, but we stay green flag as of right now. And up at the front of the field, we do have some takers on pit road. As I say that, let's check in on the number 50. There he is, Bill Edwards coming down pit road right now with Ben Izenga. Matt Vanderkoy in the number 60, I believe, also in his pit box. There he is. He's going to take on maybe 2 tires and fuel. That should get him to the end of the race here, Drew. So what we're seeing right now could be the last pit stop of the race for these drivers currently on pit road.
Yeah, this certainly should be their last pit stop. If they pit again, I wouldn't understand it, but now we see this whole big pack is now won. So an interesting move by those guys coming down early. Maybe they think they can work together and put a little gap again, try to do what they did the first time. Is now we see more takers on the pit road. Is that 23 going to be able to woe it down in time? He does, just barely. That 23, though, he maximized his pit road entrance. Let's put it that way, folks, as I thought he was going to go back up into the pack there for a second. As Travis White now coming into his pit box, along with the 15 and I believe the 971 of Nathan Mauer all pitted. And looking back out here, I think that's the 62 truck of Colin Ullery up there, leading Mitchell Adams, a bit of a resurgence from outside the top 15 at one point not too long ago. He's made a great job of working his way up there. But these guys are side by side by side, and when you're doing that, you're costing yourself time, and it's going to be difficult for you to maybe match the rest of those guys that did a really efficient pit stop and are linking up together. I'm really keeping my eye out on that 98, 97. Here we go. These guys coming down pit road now, man, that was aggressive on pit road entry. We'll see if any penalties result from that. But the 94, the 98, and the 97 worked so well together on that last round of pit stops that I am interested to see what those guys do. It seemed like they really cut down their fuel. They didn't waste any time whatsoever coming down onto pit lane. And what will they do, and how will their delta time, so to speak, on and off pit road match up against everybody else who is going to be coming in pretty shortly? But this that caution was fortunate enough in its timing, as far as everyone but James Lorello is concerned, that it's kind of opened up this pit strategy a little bit. It's kind of fun having this difference in pit strategy, which you typically don't see in the real life stuff because of the stages and everything. It kind of boxes people into one specific strategy. But it's been cool to see guys, pit a little bit early, wait a little bit longer, and make different strategies work, as now our leaders are still staying out, the 62, the 49, and everybody. But basically all the guys that have pitted thus far are in one big pack right now. So it will be pretty interesting to see how does that pan out, as now we're 3 wide up here with JT Poole, Himmelman, and I believe Peter Serto in that 32 truck. And these guys are probably not going to be running the same pace as the guys who have already pitted, as they are basically single file through the vast majority of that field, although they are looking at potentially double widening it here. But when are these guys going to pit, Peter? I got to imagine it's going to be soon.
Looks like they're going to stay out another lap here at Talladega as we ride on board with Peter Serto in the Jansen number 32 machine, working his way right here through the tri-oval. Got to say, great run here tonight for Peter Serto in that number 32 machine. I know we do have Peter Serto fans in the chat. Make sure you make yourself heard, because that number 32, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he walks away with a podium finish or better, with the way he's just kind of been lurking here tonight at Talladega. Here we are down the backstretch, though. The number 5 machine of Adams trying to get around the 49 machine of Adams. That is, of course, Ben Adams and Mitchell Adams, the 5 and the number 49 respectively. The number 4 right up there of Andrew Himmelman, also locked up in that battle side by side now with Mitchell Adams, as Colin Ullery in the 62 continues to lead here. And a great job by that number 62 of Colin Ullery as we go yet another lap. I was just waiting for them to peel down onto pit road, but they have enough fuel in the tank to go one more. And Drew, you mentioned that fact that this group pretty much double file. Let's go check out this group. This is a hornet's nest of trucks that are not running single file at all, led by the 50 of Edwards. These are all drivers who have made their final pit stop and are waiting for Himmelman, Ullery, and Poole to come down pit road for their final times. Now we start to see the 26 machine of JT Poole splitting the number 9 machine of James Lorello, who is heavy damaged, and a couple of the other trucks that he's racing, able to scoot up through the middle. And the 4 and the 26, will we see them on pit road this time? And Drew, this would be a good time, in my opinion, for the 4 and 26 to come down pit road together, because they're clear of traffic, but they're going to continue to stay out. But the good thing about this lead group is they're single file, which will help them scoot away from the cars they're racing. Even though they're not in this shot, they still have to make a final pit stop, these trucks up here at the front.
Yeah, they certainly... They're doing an alternative strategy, and I don't know that I would be doing it, but they have chosen it. Therefore, well, it's their call, and we'll see how it works out. But I like the guys that have already pitted thus far. I like what the 50's doing. I like basically what all those guys are doing. I just picked the 50 because of the championship implications, but the two remaining big hitters in the championship are on inverse strategies right now, and so whoever makes the right choice is going to be set up in a great position come Bristol next, actually 2 weeks from now, because we do have an off week next week. But Bristol, another big track that I think is another one that things can go really right or really wrong for you. It is one of the more difficult ovals that we race here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. So it'll be interesting to see, because this really sets you up well. If one of them finishes outside the top 10, the other one finishes well inside the top 10 or gets a win, that really just shifts the dynamic of this championship, and it's going to be interesting. When do these guys pit? Right, Peter? We only have 11 laps to go here at this point, so it's coming down to it. I can't imagine they can stay out too much longer.
We're on board here with the number 30 machine, Joshua Sobel. He's part of this pack. Looks like the number 26, the JT Pools, diving down onto pit road. Looks like all by himself. Anyone else coming down with him? Yes, there is. There's the number 32, Peter Serto, doing everything he can to get down to the pit road speed limit. Might have just locked up the left front just a smidgen. But that Jansen, number 32, great job. Very aggressive getting to pit road. There's also the number 84 of TJ Buck on pit road. So now we're down to just 6 trucks up at the front of the field yet to pit. We're going to have 9 laps to go this time by. We know they cannot make it on fuel. The numbers, folks, if you're wondering at home, it has been 20 laps this time by since the 4 of Himmelman, the 62 of Ullery, the 5 of Adams, and really everyone in this train, except for now this group has actually caught a couple of lapped trucks, which will actually help them because they'll be able to draft off of them, pull up to them. But now we see this group of trucks headed down pit road. Anyone going to be aggressive? Man, I gotta say, Drew, we've seen some fantastic jobs from the entire field getting to pit road here tonight. Getting word that Philip Scott might have had a pit road speeding penalty in the 44 machine. Lengthy stop on his Ford F-150. But whoa, the 4 of Himmelman trying to find his pit box, and he comes into his pit box at an awkward angle, but looks like he's able to get into it. Now, here's the big question at home, folks. What about the number 50 of Edwards? He leads that second train of trucks, and so far, so good. It looks like the number 50 is going to blow by that group of trucks just now coming off pit road.
Yeah, I think that the 50 nailed it. It's interesting to get something right from Hunt as a commentator, but I think that everybody who pitted early is in a really good position, and everybody who waited, I don't like their positioning near as much, but everything can happen. Anything can happen, not everything, just one specific thing will happen, but we do still have 9 laps to go, and you know, a caution can change everything, and now these guys know we gotta go. I gotta put myself in a position right now that I can make a move for this race win, because I can't guarantee that I can make this move later, and that's what we're seeing. The 94, the 98, the 97, the 90s basically up there, running with each other. They've worked together so well all night, and they are pushing each other up there, trying to position themselves with now closing in on now 8 laps to go. That but the 97's turned, and there we go, caution.
And that is how's the 97 going back straight? I don't know, but that is going to bring out the caution. And it just, we were looking there in that blimp cam. It was just starting to get racy, Drew. And it looked like they tried to go 4 wide here at Talladega, and that doesn't work. Let's get another look at this one right here. The 23 just gets the 97 in the corner, and the 98 and 94 nowhere to go. And you see Jason Freeman there with a heavy amount of damage. That's going to bring every truck back together. We'll get one more look at that one from on board with the number 23 machine as they went off into the corner. But that was definitely not what you want to have happen. On board with the number 23 machine right here. Let's see from high atop. There's that little bit of contact, and Mike Floppy Tellier getting slam-bammed up into the inside wall. Now, somehow, that wasn't as big of a wreck as I was expecting it to be. Unfortunately for like the number 94 machine who got into it. Same thing with Jason Gracias in the number 98. But they broke up. That high line broke up, and that's really what led to that very precarious position. Tough break there. Looks like Doug Neal in the 77 might have also got a piece of it, but good job by the 05 of Doziak, the 13 there of Scheffler to avoid any further collision. But Drew, only the second caution flag here tonight, coming right at the end of the race. Are we done seeing caution flags, you think, tonight?
Nope. I mean, I think that's a hard no. Now we have 24 trucks right around there, probably, with maybe a few with damage with the 94 and the 23, I believe, are going to have a hard time staying up there. No, we're not done. Now you've given 22 drivers hope that they can get up there and win this race, and they're going to be driving like it. And it's to be expected here at Talladega, right? I mean, this certainly is a track that can, give guys who don't necessarily run up front every week a chance to get up there and win a race. And a lot of the times those guys are going to do whatever they can to win it. And even if they are a guy that gets up there and wins every week, they still want Talladega as well. And, it's one track that aggression, quite frankly, can pay off. It can also obviously ruin your race, but you're not going to win the race by being passive. And so a lot of these guys are going to have to make aggressive moves to give themselves a shot to win. And when you kind of have everybody acting like that, like I anticipate that we'll see, it's very, very likely to bring out another caution.
It is very, very likely to bring out another caution, but I'll tell you one driver that's happy to see this one. It's this man right here, your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner, Steven Doziak in the 05 machine. We saw him do a fantastic job of getting on the binders, not to get wrapped up in that accident that just happened, but that 05 will be the 23rd truck on the lead lap when we go green here, probably with about a 4-lap shootout. Which is definitely always wild here when we get to these super speedway races. Let's see if we can dial up one of the drivers up at the front of the field here, Drew. Let's see if we can talk to Bill Edwards. I'm sure he will be very excited to say hi to his family back home. Let's see if we can drag him up in here. Bill Edwards, Peter Short, 3YTV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, that pit stop out of that number 50 truck, absolutely fantastic, able to get up to the front. And I bet you were thinking, man, I'm in a great position, but now the caution flag comes out. We're probably going to have about a 4-lap shootout when this is all said and done. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be pretty wild. What's your thoughts on getting to victory lane here tonight? How are you going to do it?
Oh, I'm just playing this like a normal points race at this point. I just got to make sure I get as much points as I can. So I'm going to try to keep it clean, try to get up there and get a win.
Well, definitely, you've been very, very quick here tonight. We saw you, Lorello, and Izenga there at the start of the race after that penalty that you served on lap number 1. We saw you close in about 12 seconds on the lead pack at that point. Anything that you learned in those first few laps that you're going to put to use here at the end of the race?
Oh, I might have a trick or two up my sleeve still. We'll see.
Well, definitely good luck here. We'll watch to see if those pace car lights turn off. But that number 50, you're in the running for the points championship. Hopefully you can walk away with your truck in one piece when the checkered flag falls. Best of luck there, Bill.
Yep, I'm hoping for it. So I think I'm due. It's been a little bit, so.
Well, we'll also let you give a shout out to the people watching back at home, because I know you got a couple of those before we let you go, so let's hear it.
I say hi to my mom. I know she's probably watching. I got to say hi to my girlfriend and all the S2R fans out there.
All right, well, we'll let Bill get back to it, folks, here. Best of luck to him here tonight. But Drew, like we thought, like we anticipated, caution lights on the Ford Mustang have turned off. 4-lap shootout, just over 10 miles left to go in this one. And like you said, you don't think that we're done with caution flags. I agree. I don't think we're done with caution flags because, folks, it's been quiet here for a Talladega race. I think they have a lot of pent-up energy in these drivers here over these next closing laps, Drew.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen so much calmness for so long in this race, and now it's kind of time to go, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of chaos, a lot of guys getting up there really pushing each other, and I mean, I think to expect anything else would kind of be unusual, right? I mean, this isn't This isn't Darlington where you're racing the track. You're racing like everybody else at this track. So you got to get up there. You got to make moves. You got to put yourself in a position. And that's going to kind of typically result in contact. But here with 5 laps to go, they don't have a ton of shots at this. Even if there are cautions, we're probably only... If there's a caution on this restart, we're going to have one more restart probably before the race ends. If not, that's going to count as the green-white checkered or the first green-white checkered. So we'll see. That 07, though, up there leading this... Actually, no, take it back to 50 truck, who took the outside lane, is going to be controlling this restart. And, it's all go from there.
It is all go from there. The starter has the green flag in hand for only the 3rd time here tonight. We've only had 2 yellows. Will we see another one? The 50 already on the loud pedal. We're back to green flag racing here at Talladega as the field really spread out here, Drew. Not a great restart for a good portion of the back half of the pack, but are they just going to build up momentum to close in on the front drivers with a full head of steam? Do you think that front group of trucks got too far out front?
It'll be interesting to see. There we go. Now we're really seeing the aggression take hold as the 60 truck to the inside. Is he going to come back out in front of traffic? He does. A huge hit for the 10 truck. And we have trucks flying through the air. There we go. We talked about it. A caution's likely. It certainly happened. The 05 of Steven Doziak. The 60 of Matt Vanderkoy and several others likely involved as well. What a huge impact there, Peter.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is going to get the number 13 of Jordan Scheffler, I believe, in trouble. You're not allowed to go 3 wide until you're halfway down the backstretch. He goes 3 wide down here in the number 60 of Vanderkoy. And looks like the 13 just turns up into Vanderkoy. And Vanderkoy goes down there, tries to save the truck, and I think he just couldn't quite catch the truck before going up in front of Monty Glover and Steven Doziak in the 05 machine, just like a bulldozer, just mowing on through the number 60 of Vanderkoy. We'll get another look at that one from on board with the number 60 truck. We'll see if we can kind of slow this one down and see if we can see exactly what happened here. You can see here's the 3 wide. The number 13's down there on the inside groove. There's almost contact there. And the 60 kind of pinches the number 13 down, and did one come up, one come down? It might have been a little bit of a racing deal, but Vanderkoy did everything he could right up until this point. But you can see that truck's just kind of leaned over to one side. He's just able to kind of pitch it back. You could almost see that car just kind of, lurch over to the other side. But it was just a little bit too late, coming up right in front of the number 10 of Monty Glover, and nowhere for Steven Doziak in the 05 machine to go. But that's an interesting one, a tough one here tonight for those drivers, Drew.
Yeah, it's I'm sure the 05 and everybody else that the 60 kind of came up in front of didn't think that was going to be a possibility. But I think that we saw that 60 was trying to gather that truck up, and I don't think that your first instinct is to just pull in front of the entire field. So yeah, it's an unfortunate amount of circumstances for those drivers, but it's late race Talladega, right? I mean, this is exactly what we expected, and we just had confirmation from the game that this is the green-white checkered. So we are looking at 99 laps here, according to the iRacing UI, and I think we only get one green-white checkered here, Peter, if I'm not mistaken.
I do believe so here at Talladega. As you're looking at the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner right there, Doug Milliner in that number 6 machine, got involved in that accident on the backstretch that did not bring out the caution flag. And that's the reason he has quite a lot of damage, and that's the reason why he's 1 lap down in that Louisville Cardinals number 6 Ford F-150, or was 1 lap down, I should say, as Brookstone Animal Hospital are going to award him the Lucky Dog and get him back on the lead lap now. So that will give us 21 trucks on the lead lap as Steven Doziak, Matt Vanderkoy in the 05 and the 60. Both of those trucks will go no further. Mike Tellier in the number 97 has also taken his truck to the garage here. Trying to see who else might have gone to the garage here tonight. And I don't think it's going to be a good night for Lorello. He's really not going to pick up any positions if I'm looking at live timing and scoring correctly, he's going to need a couple of attempts at a green-white checker. Don't think we're going to get that, as Lorello looks like he's going to succumb to a 28th place finish here tonight at Talladega, which is going to be absolutely brutal to his championship hunt. At least that isn't to say it might be okay, because we still have another attempt. We still have the big one that might happen, and it could also strike some other playoff or chase contenders here in the Simbox Truck Series. And if you're just now joining us here, folks, tonight is the Simbox 250. There's a link in the description to Simbox. Make sure you go check them out. Button boxes galore over at Simbox. You can even customize to make your own button box if you're in the market for any type of button box, whether it's for iRacing, any type of racing simulator, really, or maybe even flight simulator. Go check out our friends over at Simbox, where you can get the hookup, a great quality product for a spectacular price. Pace car lights have turned off, so that Ford Mustang iRacing.com pace car lights have been extinguished. We're going to get set to go back to green flag, Drew, green white checker. The number 50 of Edwards, he had a great restart last time. He really just has to do the same thing here and allow some trucks to kind of get bunched up behind him, but he doesn't want to get too far out front.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. This is a crucial point in this quite frankly, the season of this 50 truck, right? This could make or break his season if it goes horribly wrong for Bill, which I certainly hope he doesn't. This could, I mean, this is the challenge of these huge seasons that these leagues run, right? Is that this is such a crucial moment, and it's culminated, in several months of work for a lot of these drivers, and with guys like James Lorello. I mean, in an instant, it was really, really severely put in jeopardy for that 9 to be able to compete for this championship when he's been so fast all season. For the 50 truck, we've seen consistency out of that 50 truck, though kind of maybe waned, a little bit of lost momentum coming into the chase, but we're seeing him do what he needs to do tonight. Guys like Mitchell Adams, that caution kind of gave him a second breath, right? That allowed him to catch up with these guys, and he's restarting on the inside lane, which is not what the leader's controlling. So it'll be really interesting to see how this pans out. If the 50 nails this restart and brings this home in victory lane, which is so hard to do as the leader here at Talladega, that would be a huge boom for him. But it's it's really unpredictable. If you told me you have $100 to place a bet on what's going to happen, I just wouldn't know what to do with it. I guess I'd pick the leader just by default, but just anything can happen here at Talladega as that 50 truck just leads them down in an early restart by the 50, as that's a early cut to the bottom for him, for Bill Edwards, and he is not got too big of a lead, but that really kind of strung out the field a little bit, which quite frankly, I think that's what the 50 wants to see. What the 50 wants is to at least get this to the white flag. Don't let, or maybe. It's kind of hard to tell what the 50 necessarily wants, but having those guys a little bit more spread out, a little bit less momentum, we'll see. Does that pan out for the 50 truck, Peter? I don't know. It's a little too early to tell.
As they go off into turn number 3, the 971 Nathan Maurer on the outside trying to get some help. Here comes the 26, a JT Poole. He restarted around 14th position a couple of restarts ago. He says, you know what, Nathan? I'm not going to go with you. I'm going to go with Izenga. He's going to get back to the back. And the 50 machine. He might be out of fuel. Bill Edwards in the number 50 headed down pit road. That is absolute heartbreak for the number 50 machine. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, the 07 of Izenga is going to take the race lead here at Talladega.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that from the 50. I gotta be honest. Bill Edwards, black flagged. I wonder if that was a lane change before the restart, and that's why he got a black flag. But we got to wreck the 07. This is almost the whole field. Who's going to be able to avoid it? 971 and 8th Maurer involved as well. I think the 49 will sneak through, as will the 62, the 30. This is the last lap, folks. There's no caution. This race is not over. These guys are racing for position. The 62 of Doug Neal, the 30 of Josh Sobel
We are on the last lap. Who is going to go with who? Is Josh going to get any help from the guys behind him? Is Peter Certo? Oh, contact! And I think Jordan Scheffler is going to take the victory. What a finish as Josh Sobel tumbles across the start-finish line for fourth. That 13 truck, our pole sitter, which you almost never see here at Talladega, takes home the victory. Jordan Scheffler, congratulations to him.
Wow. What a final lap, Drew. Man, we're going to have to go back and see what happened there on the backstretch, because it all started to go wrong right there, headed down the backstretch with Ben Izenga up at the front of the field. And to really break this one down, we're going to have to go into the blimp cam. He was your race leader, the 15 of Dudley. He goes up to the top side. The 07 goes to block him, and that's just a late block. Look at Andrew Himmelman getting involved. Look at the 30 and the 13 scooting on through. Your race winner right there in the number 13. Nathan Maurer in the 971 getting involved. The 2 getting involved. And what about the 49 machine of Mitchell Adams? There he is. He was the driver racing for the points lead at the start of the night. What about the number 50? Of course, Edwards. He had a 20th place finish after running out of fuel there with that green-white checker. You see Mitchell Adams, he was smoking. Then let's go back up to the front of the field with Josh Sobel. Let's go back to full speed here. Josh Sobel there in the Stay Tuned Sports Toyota Tundra. He tried to go for the race win, but then you had those 2 trucks behind him using all that draft to try and use the slingshot. And Jordan Scheffler says, you know what? I'm going to try and go up the middle. He thought about going 4 wide. Then Peter Certo goes 3 wide, but then the 13 goes below the yellow line. And there you see it. That 30 of Sobel tumbling across the start-finish line to finish in 4th.
Yeah, I anticipated a little bit of chaos at the end there, but I don't think I anticipated what that last lap had in store for us. Just kind of Jordan Scheffler out of nowhere, Colin Ulrich, Peter Certo, Josh Sobel. I was really wondering what this 32 would do, this white truck here, 4th place. Would he push the 30? Would he try to force it to himself? He does, and that's just, that's what's going to happen, right? Those guys are going to force it, and they go on the outside wall, and the 13 just looks in his rearview mirror smiling, and he knows he's got it. Jordan Scheffler with a great job of just kind of forcing those guys into a certain position, right? You had Josh Sobel that got a heck of a run. You had Colin Ulrich, who was the leader there after that incident unfolded in front of him. Here you go on board with Peter Certo. What's going to happen? I mean, if I were the 32, I would have gone high, because that hole's going to close up. Like that's absolutely what the 30 and the 62 are going to try to do is try to squeeze him and get him to back out, and he didn't, and contact ensued, and that allowed that 13 to scoot on through and grab the checkered flag. And what a job by Jordan Scheffler.
Yeah, Jordan Scheffler, man, going down there below the yellow line, letting all the craziness happen, and walking away with the win here tonight. There he is, one very, very, very happy camper at the end of the race. It'll be great to talk to him here, break down those final laps with your top 3 finishers of Scheffler, Ulrich, and Certo. Josh Sobel just missing out on the top 3 here tonight. But we'll be right back here on 3 Wide TV. We're going to talk to the man who sat on the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award and goes to victory lane here in the Simbox 250. We'll be right back here on 3 Wide TV. All right, folks, welcome back to Talladega. There's been a lot to sort out here around this racetrack. 2.66 miles, 98 laps here tonight. And for all of you people in the chat wondering about the end of the race and all the accident that went down, we are getting admins working on the finishing results. We are going to get a quick word here with the driver of the number 30 machine of Joshua Sobel, but folks, don't go anywhere. Make sure you stay tuned in because we might not know who is the current victor of tonight's race. Drew Eisenman has caught up with driver of the number 30 machine, Joshua Sobel. There, Drew.
Hey, Josh, it's Drew Eisenman up here in the 3-Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
Well, that was a crazy last lap. I don't think we know quite where you finished yet. I know the admins are kind of sorting out that last lap running order, but how did it go down through your windshield and rearview mirror?
I mean, I was pretty much behind Colin. I had a huge run once they were wrecking on the backstretch, and I got a nice little run on the high side going in the turn. So it was pretty much like you see the finish, you're like, oh my God, here it is. And then you get someone who gets a run and decides, let's take it in the middle instead of taking it high for God knows why.
Yeah, that's you literally kind of echoed my sentiments. I figured that 32 would either push you or go high, not try to fit it in where it seemed pretty clear that a squeeze was going to happen as you guys approach the start finish line. But I think, a top five, nonetheless, regardless of how this race has ended up being scored, is a pretty solid run for you. We saw a pretty calm race there until the last 10 laps or so. How did you view that race as, why were guys single file so much? And why did that race unfold the way it did?
I mean, I'm just all around as just like a new driver for the league coming in. I'm extremely impressed with everybody tonight in general. I know there was some drama early on with Mashburn and all of them, which is kind of nuts. But overall, I mean, even Revolution Motorsports, the guys that we raced with, Mitchell and Colin and Ben Adams and all those guys. I mean, our pitch strategy was flawless. We were doing such a great job, and I'm still just kind of. I'm kind of pissed. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I think, any time that you have that opportunity to get up there and try to grab a race victory and you just kind of feel it, just barely slip through your fingers, you feel like there's something more you could have done. But from our perspective, you drove a heck of a race. And I mean, arguably, this might be your best tie for your best finish or tie for your second best. How do you view restrictor plate tracks? Are they something that you look forward to, something you dread? What was your mindset coming into tonight?
Anytime I'm in the back, I get screwed. So my whole plan was I'm not going to ride in the back and I'm just going to give it everything I got. Cause regardless of what happens, you're at Dega and it's going to be a wreck fest. And that was my thinking, just going back into the other races, at super speedways, it's just nonstop chaos. But like I said, here tonight was like a completely different race. Everyone was very patient, even at the last little bit. Like, obviously I haven't raced Serto hard before. I don't know his mind or what he's thinking or any of that stuff, so I don't have hard feelings towards him. It's just a good racer knows to not try to thread the needle when you have a run. That's all there is to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely one way to look at it. Next week we have Bristol. What's your mindset going into that? Or not next week, rather 2 weeks. My apologies, off weekend.
Oh, got me excited. But Bristol's amazing. I love Bristol, so I love short tracks. That's kind of my thing. So, as long as we can keep it clean and see how it goes, I'm excited.
And we're excited to watch. And also, more exciting news: the partnership between NSRA and Stay Tuned Sports. How excited are you for that burgeoning relationship? Given your relationship with Stay Tuned.
I'm so happy for Jimbo in general with the way he's come. I mean, he sponsors a guy in the Xfinity series. I don't know how often he watches him race, but I feel like once I came into the truck series, he's been pretty much watching just about every race alongside with his wife too, who's not even into racing, and being able to like enjoy it together is insane. I mean, the dude even made t-shirts on his website of of the truck on the back of it, which is insane to even think about, that he has that much passion and he's putting it into it. So I am so excited that Jimbo was able to grab that, and it just means I got to work even harder coming into next season as well too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, definitely a little jealous of the t-shirt situation. I was like, man, I need to step up my game and get some t-shirts made. But it's really, really cool. But before we let you go, anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to, any final thoughts?
Absolutely. My dad's always in the chat. I'm sure my mom watches alongside him as well too. He loves racing, so being able to get him involved and seeing his support is amazing. Jimbo, Stay Tuned Sports, for giving me the opportunity to do something with my time, and Revolution Motorsports and all those guys, for honestly, those guys have brought me from where I was at the beginning of the race to where I am at now. And without those guys' help and a lot of the other guys in the league, I can't thank everybody enough, honestly.
All right, Josh. Well, thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, folks, I think we're gonna have to do a little bit of work now here, a little bit of detective work. We're gonna go back on the tape. We're gonna have to queue up this 3-wide TV graphic here for just a little bit and see if we can break down this final lap, because these races, they're never easy. They're never easy to call. We've seen a lot of races in real life in NASCAR in regards to these super speedways that can lead to controversial finishes. We got a lot of people in the chat talking about it. We've had TJ Buck in the chat. We've had Mitchell Snare, Ben Mashburn, JT Poole, just a whole bunch of people, Tana Himmelman in the chat as well, talking about this final lap. And we are just now finally getting word from race control. And this is how things are going to shake out, folks. Here we are. We're in super slow motion. The number 13 machine, Jordan Scheffler, right there in the center of your screen, is closing in on the number 62 right in front of him. Now, of course, we know what's going to happen here. We've seen what's going to happen here. We know there's going to be the contact between the 62 and the number 30, and I think Jordan Scheffler might have been anticipating it. But here is the deal, folks. As maybe this is a little bit too slow here, as you could almost commentate the wheels going round and round on the trucks in front here in the super slow motion. But you can see here comes the number 13. He starts to move up the racetrack just a little bit because Peter Serto is there. But then watch what the number 13 does as the 32 starts to go by. He starts to slowly work his way down the racetrack. And I say slowly, it's almost painfully slow here on the 3-wide TV slow motion cam. But I think this is what the admins are looking at right here. He ducks below the yellow line to initiate a pass. That is deemed by the in-race officials, even though this is prior to the contact, he initiates the pass by going down below the yellow line. For that reason, up at the top of the screen, you will see Jordan Scheffler in the number 13 machine has received a black flag for initiating pass below the yellow line. So, the number 13 machine of Jordan Scheffler is not going to walk home with the race win here tonight. The number 32 of Peter Serto, who's not in the chat, is going to be elevated up into the second position. Colin Ullery in the 62 machine right there is going to be the driver walking away with the checkered flag here tonight. So let's see if we can dial up with the number 62 machine. We'll see if we can also get a word with Jordan Scheffler as well. But for the second time here this season, the race winner has come across the start-finish line slideways. And here we are with Colin Ullery and the number 62 machine going to take home the checkered flag. Colin, wow, what a wild final few laps in that number 62 machine, but second time in 2 weeks here on 3-Wide TV getting home the win.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have my first win in the Truck Series in the Chase. And I desperately needed it to get in the points for the championship.
Well, we mentioned it almost at the top of the show that Michigan did not go well for you. You turned around in the first 15 to 20 laps or so, ended up heavy in the inside wall, lots of damage. Day done for you. But here tonight at Talladega, getting that turnaround, getting that little bit of spark that Drew and I mentioned at the top of the show that really someone could pick up the win here tonight and really start their momentum here over the closing races. Of course, we got Bristol in 2 weeks, which is another type of wild card race, but how awesome is it to get the win tonight?
It was absolutely amazing to win. It sucks to win how it finished, but it feels good to win.
Well, yeah, I mean, all things considered, you had a extremely strong night tonight in the number 62 machine as well. There were a couple times where it almost looked like you were out for the count. You, at one point, were leading a train of cars about 5 seconds off the race lead, but you were able to close in right before that last round of green flag pit stops. How important was it for that group of trucks to get lined up to really push you back up towards the front?
It was a group effort. We all talked over strategy, debated in multiple things, and Revolution Motorsports did an amazing job with our strategy today, and we did a good job getting all our cars, I think, in the top 10 today. So it was a great night for us.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic night for you here on 3 Wide TV, Colin, and of course one of the Chase drivers here in the Simbox Series Chase. We go to Bristol in 2 weeks, and like I said just a second ago, it is another one of those wild card races. It's another one of those throw of the dices. What are you looking forward to about going to Bristol? Do you enjoy racing on the world's fastest half mile?
I kind of enjoy it, and I like short tracks, and Bristol's a lot of fun to drive, but it can end up just being trying to avoid a wreck, and there's just not much room to go. Get out of the way of a wreck, and you kind of get piled into them when you're behind them. So it's just staying clean at Bristol, and anything can happen there, really.
Yeah, definitely going to be a really interesting one. Congratulations on picking up the win here for the second time in 2 weeks on the channel. I know you have some shout outs to give, so let's hear them.
Thank you to NSRA, Revolution Motorsports, everyone for watching, and you guys for putting on the broadcast, and for Stay Tuned Sports becoming a new sponsor to the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have them on board. But thanks for stopping by. Congratulations on picking up the win here tonight. And hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time at Bristol.
Yep. See you then.
All right, folks. That is the number 62 machine of Colin Ullery. And I believe that Drew Eisenman has caught up with Jordan Schepler in the number 13 machine. What could have been for that number 13 tonight?
Well, Jordan, it's Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
I got one.
Well, I can hear it in the tone of your voice, the disappointment. Just walk us through that last lap and what happened through your eyes.
After me and Vanderkoy got into it, I had a little damage on my front end, so I really wasn't expecting to be up there. Then once that wreck happened on the backstretch, and I somehow made it through, it was just me and the two guys in front of me. I had a little bit of momentum going into the tri-oval. It's Talladega, you can't lift, so I stuck it down low. I saw I'm not sure it's a 32 or who it was that caused it, but I saw him coming up like a rocket. I knew what was about to happen, so I was just trying to keep my momentum and keep it clean, and it happens, right?
Yeah, and I know it can be kind of hard to even have enough awareness of where the O-line is. Did you just lose track of it? Were you just kind of going where they weren't? What was your kind of thought process and kind of what resulted in ultimately you unfortunately not being able to take home the checkered flag?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're not. At least I wasn't paying attention to where the yellow line was. I was making sure where the two guys were in front of me, and I saw the guy coming behind me. I figured, I didn't have enough juice to really get by them. So it was just, try to avoid what I knew was going to be a wreck. It was either going to be a wreck or they're going to block each other all the way up to the wall. But yeah, so I mean, I went down below the yellow line, so it is what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, you ran a heck of a race, and you sat on the pole. You gave yourself a shot to win there at the end. Unfortunately, just rules are rules, and sometimes that stuff happens. But Bristol next week, what are your thoughts?
Tough track. You might as well count it like a super speedway. It's pretty much all luck. Just trying to survive there. Not one of my best tracks, but I mean, we'll go there. We'll see what happens. At least we put on a good show tonight, right?
Yeah, it certainly didn't lack in entertainment in the last few laps. Well, thank you for stopping by, Jordan. I wish it were under better circumstances. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, big shout out to my family, my girlfriend watching in the other room, everybody tuning in. You guys for doing the broadcast, NSRA for putting this league on every week. Great racing every week. So that's it.
All right. Thanks for talking to us, Jordan.
Appreciate it.
Well, I got to say, Drew, definitely a night at Talladega, much like Michigan. I didn't expect as much drama at Michigan. I honestly didn't expect as much drama here tonight at Talladega. I expected to see the big one. You always expect to see that when you come here, but it wasn't until the very last lap where we saw two major accidents. We saw that one major accident early in the race with the 24 and the number 9 machine with major championship implications for the number 9 of Lorello. What a wild night. And really, it's going to be really interesting to see when we break down the final race results. Now, the final race results still show Jordan Scheffler as the race winner. That is not true. Scheffler is going to be dropped down to the 17th place finish, the last car on the lead lap. So we will kind of go through your real finishing results with Jordan Scheffler dropped down to 17th. Colin Ullery will take home the win. Peter Serta will come home in second. Josh Sobel gets elevated up into third, even though he went flipping across the start-finish line. TJ Buck gets a 4th place finish out of tonight's run. Barry Knapp going to come home with the top 5. Jeffrey Johnson Jr., one of those playoff drivers, one of those chase drivers, I should say, finishing in 6th. Doug Milliner, what a recovery for him. We had, who was that in the chat? All night long, rooting on that number 6 truck. It fleets me who that was, which is absolutely crazy to kind of think about that, because it was Ray Heilig in the chat rooting on that number 6 machine all night long. Coming home in 7th. Ben Adams going to finish down in 8th. JT Poole 9th. And finishing in the 10th position here tonight, Justin White there, Drew.
Yeah, and Mitchell Adams will bring home 11th position, followed by Jason Gracias. Mitchell Adams, a little bit disappointing result there, but nothing too horrible. I mean, ultimately, I think he's going to come out of this okay as far as the championship's concerned. Stan Hausman will bring it home in 13th, with Andrew Himmelman being involved in that late race wreck, bringing it home in 14th. Robert Dudley, we saw trying to make that outside lane work for so long this race. He will bring it home in 15th. Philip Scott will bring it home in 16th. And then, unfortunately, we talked to him just a minute or so ago. Jordan Scheffler scored as our race winner. Unfortunately, he will be dropped down to 17th position. Ben Izenga, we saw him have such a great recovery from that early race issue. He unfortunately involved in one of those big late race wrecks. He'll bring it home in 18th. Nathan Maurer, 971, kind of the same situation as far as being involved in one of those late wrecks. 19th, Bill Edwards, that unfortunate penalty. I think he changed lanes on that restart when he was the race leader and looking to score major points and huge chase implications with his 20th place finish.
Yeah, definitely. That race at the end did not go well for some drivers in the field, that is for sure. I'm glad I don't have to do any more math anymore. Doug Neal's going to come home in 21st. Stephen Doziak Jr. involved in that late race accident, 22nd. Monty Glover, 23rd. Mike Tellier also involved in a late race accident, 24th. Travis White, 25th. Jason Freeman, 26th there. James Lorello involved in that accident. Great job by Lorello to stick it out all race long, folks. He was still out there at the finish of the race, even though he was 11 laps down with a very beaten up number 9 machine. Garrett Gleason coming home in 28th. Matt Vander Kooi in 29th. Not exactly 100% sure what happened there with the number 60 machine and why he's being scored in 29th position. There might have been a black flag assigned to the number 60. No, a black flag was definitely assigned to the number 24 of Ben Mashburn. So going to be interesting to see if there's any more that we find out about the number 60 of Matt Vander Kooi and why he might be scored with a 29th place finish, because he definitely made it closer to the end of the race, Drew. And of course, Ben Mashburn, will we see any implications out of that one? But those were the 30 cars that started here tonight in the Simbox 250. And after it's all said and done, the number 62 machine of Colin Ullery able to come home and get the checkered flag. Drew, wild night, 2 weeks time, Bristol. That's going to be a wild one as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be less crazy because, I mean, the vast majority of this race, I feel like the first 90%, with the exception of that one wreck, which unfortunately was at James Lorello's expense, was fairly calm, right? Like, didn't really have a ton of drama that really kind of came along with it. Just those last 10 or so laps. I literally last 10 laps as far as 10% of the race is concerned, is that 98 lap race turned into a 100 lap race. But yeah, it was fairly calm. I think Bristol, it's so hard to do what they did tonight and be calm and be patient and everything, because unlike Talladega, where, you might choose to run around single file, Bristol, there's no choice as far as, that you can't pass guys. It's so difficult to pass at Bristol. And you can just get frustrated running behind a guy, and that results in just getting into him and causing all sorts of problems. And we'll see what can these guys do with what I think is the most challenging track as far as passing's concerned on the oval side of the iRacing service.
Without a doubt, it's going to be an interesting one here on 3Wide TV as the Simbox Truck Series goes to the world's fastest half mile, the last great Coliseum. It goes by many names, Bristol Motor Speedway. It should be a fun one. Before we go, big shout out to the series sponsors here in the Simbox Truck Series. You see right there at the top of the number 62 of Colin Ullery, the link to Simbox, link in the description, facebook.com/SimboxPCs. Make sure you go check them out, as well as our friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital, Sim Racing Shirts. And Drew, one thing we didn't get to do when we went through the final race rundown is go over the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. So we got to give that one out, and that is actually going to be a difficult one to hand out this week, because somehow you're going to have to share it, folks, because Jeffrey Johnson Jr. and Doug Milliner, those two drivers, will pick that up. Each of those, no, excuse me, I take that back. Sorry, I have to rip it out of the hands of Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Doug Milliner. I have to run down to Justin White because I can't look at all the numbers at once. Justin White in the number 2 mobile started this race shotgun on the field, P30, and comes home with a 10th place finish. So congratulations to Justin White for picking up the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. If you want a custom diecast, make sure you go check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs, because they will make your custom diecast, whether it be an iRacing car or a real world car. If you can dream it, they can make it. Other series sponsors, of course, the Lynchburg T-shirt company, Sim Racing Shirts, and of course, Stay Tuned Sports now jumping on board in the National Sim Racing Association. Great job to have them on board here for the next couple of seasons. But for us here at 3Wide TV, want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we bring you each and every week. But Drew, I think that's just about going to do it. Any final thoughts?
Just a crazy race, a crazy finish, and can't wait for Bristol.
A lot of talking points going into the race in 2 weeks' time. But folks, until we meet again here on the channel, have a great night, and we shall see ya!